Welcome to Salt Lake City, Utah, where the Wasatch Mountains are almost as beautiful as the aesthetically pleasing, crazy climbing moves we're about to see inside Momentum Indoor Climbing Salt Lake City, where the nation's very best climbers have assembled for the final day of the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. Alongside former U.S. Climbing National Team member Megan Martin, I'm Sam Farber. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us here today. Well, Megan, these 8 finalists for the men are ready to take one step closer towards their Olympic dreams, as in 2020 in Tokyo, it'll be the first time climbing is an Olympic event.
Yes, we started with 23 men in the qualification, and now we're down to our top 8, and it was close. They had to fight for every point and every rank, so we're going to see it all laid out today in the final.
Now, today's final will be the exact same format as we'll see in Tokyo in 2020, the combined format featuring speed, bouldering, and sport. While you can't qualify for the Olympics today, you certainly make your path a lot easier.
Yes, the man who wins today will then be put on the U.S. overall national team, which will qualify him to compete on the World Cup circuit this season internationally.
Coming into this weekend's competition, Sean Bailey was widely considered the #1 climber in the country and a real favorite to make it to Tokyo in 2020. He has performed as expected, entering these finals as the #1 seed.
Yes, but if I had to take my pick for the podium, I would probably put my money on Sean Bailey, Drew Iwana, and Zach Galla. Not sure the order, but those are my podium picks.
And hey, don't sleep on the #8 seed as well, John Brossler. He is the fastest speed climber in the country. Speaking of which, we'll kick off our competition with the men's speed final. Don't go anywhere, it's next. The 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational is brought to you by The North Face, inspiring and enabling exploration since 1966. Snow-swept Salt Lake City, a beautiful sight. So is what we're about to witness here at the speed wall, a sprint for the very best male climbers in the country. They're able to complete that course in roughly 6 to 7 seconds. It's going to be a head-to-head knockout format heading into the final, and the number of points you get is based off your ranking. So finish first, you're in great shape moving forward. If you're an 8th, it's going to be tough. Right there, you're looking at Colin Duffy. Might look like he's someone's kid brother, but at 15 years old, he is already a phenom here in the sport and qualified in the top 5 for this competition.
Colin Duffy is definitely one to watch, and you know, having to go against the speed national record holder in his first race today is not the best odds, but you know, even if he gets beat by John Brossler, his time will still place him for the rest of the field. So he still needs a good run and needs to just try his best.
One thing we saw from the women, your resultant speed was not necessarily a huge indicator of how you do in the rest of the competition, although both our first and second place women were in the top 3. So rest is not necessarily a huge advantage either coming out of this. Same wall that we'll see in 2020 at the Tokyo Olympics. Think of this a lot like a hurdles race. You don't move the hurdles around. They don't move these holds around. So these athletes, so long as they don't, quote unquote, hit a hurdle, are pretty well trained on where to place their hands and feet.
Yeah, they know exactly where the hands and feet are. They have this route memorized. The problem is when you're moving that fast, sometimes you mess up and slip, and if you have to look down and fix yourself, that can be a detrimental thing to your run.
First up is John Brossler, who is the American record holder in qualifications. He blazed up the wall in 6.18 seconds. And this is Colin Duffy, who at 15 is the youngest competitor in the field. He's also the shortest and the lightest.
Climbers on your mark.
Ready to start our knockout round 1. John Brossler, the #1 speed climber in the country, on the left. Off to a good start. Brossler cruising up the wall. Duffy a little bit of a slip, and Brossler not taking anything off. 6.60 on the clock. Duffy taps at 10.2.
Definitely a really good run for John Brosler. Definitely the kind of run that he wanted to have in his first race. Still very quick, and he was super clean the entire time. They both came off with a clean start. John just kind of running off the walls. There was a slip from Colin Duffy, unfortunately, which lowered his time, but John was able to keep his momentum going and just focus on his race to come out with a win.
We saw some of the faster women really take it easy in the first round where they knew they had the head-to-head advantage. Not so with John Brosler. He goes flying up the wall. He might be going for a new national record today.
It's unlikely that we see the guys take it as cautiously as the women because their times are so close. They kind of just have to leave it all out there from the start.
Speaking of which, this might be the most interesting race today. Kai Leitner, the 4 seed in speed, versus Nathaniel Coleman, the 5 seed. Both are considered favorites in this competition, so this is really a pivotal race that might determine which one of them has a chance to win the overall competition.
Climbers on your mark.
Ready for our next knockout matchup. Kai Leitner on the left, Nathaniel Coleman on the right. In qualification, they were separated by just half a second for their best times. Both a clean start. A little bit of a jump from Coleman out of the brakes.
Oh, a slip for Kai. That's definitely going to hurt him. Let's see if, oh, another slip. A slip from Nathaniel, too. Wow.
Both in under 10 seconds. But it's Nathaniel Coleman that's going to advance into the Final Four.
It was definitely anybody's race here. Unfortunately, they both suffered slips, kind of keeping it interesting the whole time and knowing that no matter what, they need to keep going because if they don't win this round, their time does matter. Nathaniel was able to end up winning the round.
So Nathaniel Coleman in a good spot heading into the semifinals.
Go Carly.
Next up to the wall, it's Zach Galla and Drew Ruana. Zach was the second fastest climber in this event in qualifications amongst the 8 who moved on. Drew Ruana, the second overall seed for the overall competition, but not nearly as fast of a speed climber.
Both of these guys are super explosive, so I'm expecting to see a really good race from them. Zach can be a little too powerful at times, and that's what happened in his qualification, so we'll have to hope for a clean run from him.
Climbers on your mark.
Zach Galla on the left in this knockout round. He went under 7 seconds in the qualifiers.
Ready.
See if he can keep it up here. Clean start for both. Slip for Ruana on the right. He's way behind.
Zach Galla keeping that momentum going. Wow.
6:8.2 for Zach Galla.
Really
Second
good
fastest time today.
Zach Galla was extremely powerful right from the start. Really exploded onto his race. He was able to keep his momentum, and then unfortunately Drew Ruana slipped and had to look down, really killing his momentum and not able to catch Zach Galla in the end.
Final pair approaching the wall here in round 1 of the speed finals. That is Josh Levin, who had a sub 7-second time in qualifiers. And then the #1 overall seed, Sean Bailey. He'll certainly be an underdog in this race against Levin, but so long as he doesn't finish last, you gotta feel he's got a good chance throughout the rest of the competition. When I say last, I mean worst time here.
It'll be really important for Sean to just run his own race and focus on completing this. The chances of him beating Josh are slim unless there's a slip. So for Sean, he just needs to make sure that he has a good race.
Climbers on your mark.
Sean Bailey, the #1 overall seed in this competition, is on the right. He is not a favorite, though, in this particular speed race against Josh Levin on the left.
All right, let's go.
A clean start. Levin cruising out in front. He's going to, oh, he missed the buzzer.
Oh, that's devastating for Josh Levin, missing the buzzer, but extremely lucky for Sean Bailey. He looks extremely surprised, actually. Josh had a really good start. He was super clean at the start. And unfortunately, sometimes you just can't get that extra lift at the top. Both of them are off to a clean start. I was really impressed with Sean hitting every move as well. Josh was just on a roll and just came up a little short. Just the tiniest bit short on the buzzer here.
Frustration for Josh Levin. Sean Bailey moves on to the final four. Speed knockout continues after this. Welcome back to the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. We are in the semifinals now of our speed discipline. John Brosler and Zach Galla both went sub 7 seconds in round one. Nathaniel Coleman able to win his race to get into the semis. And Sean Bailey didn't really win his race, but his competitor Josh Levin missed the buzzer. So Bailey assured at least a top four finish. That's huge for someone who wasn't expected to make it to the semis.
This was definitely the questionable discipline for Sean Bailey, so coming away with nothing less than a fourth is going to be amazing for him.
Keep an eye on the man on the left, John Brosler. He is the national record holder and didn't really take it easy in his first run at 6.6, so he might have a big plan for what's in store in these potentially last two runs.
I'm expecting John to definitely lay it all out here. He's looking to win his race each time and, you know, always looking for a new record.
Climbers on your mark.
John Brosler, the national record holder, on the left side of the screen, taking on one of the overall favorites,
Ready.
Nathaniel Coleman, in our first semifinal. Clean start, Brosler already pulling away. No, a slip.
Oh my goodness.
Springs back and flips again. And Nathaniel Coleman is moving on to the big final.
And he is in disbelief. Oh my goodness, this is devastating for John Brosler. He really needed to end up in that #1 spot to be a contender for the rest of this competition. Unfortunately, he happened to have a minor slip. It really wasn't even that bad, but then he kind of overreacted to it and then got off of his rhythm and then had a huge slip and wasn't able to make it up. Another look at that slip where his hand came off too. It really didn't help him try to get back to that rhythm.
Nathaniel Coleman with his best time of the competition, 7.66 seconds. Still needed some help with John Brosler slipping twice. Unfortunate for him. This is certainly his best discipline, but he will have to settle for a spot in the small final, the consolation bracket, if you will, later on here in the competition. Next up, Zach Galla on the left. He is capable of a sub 7 second time for sure. And on the right, Sean Bailey, who was not expected necessarily to do well in this discipline. He's expected to do really well in everything else. So this already is a big win for him.
Definitely already a great position for Sean Bailey. For Zach Galla, it would be great if he can make it into the big final.
Climbers on your mark.
Semifinal number 2, Sean Bailey, your overall favorite playing with house money. He's not a speed specialist. Zach Galla is the favorite in this head-to-head race. Neck and neck so far. Slight slip for Bailey.
Zach Galla barely even was using his feet on the holds. He was just racing up that wall so quickly. Little slip for Sean Bailey, but he's still got a time in there. The more practice he can get, the better off he's gonna be. Galla explodes out of the box, and Sean Bailey has like a little slip right there. And unfortunately, it takes him off. Zach Galla just speeding through.
Zach Galla, a time of 6.84, almost identical to his round 1 time. He's in the big final against Nathaniel Coleman. when we come back to Salt Lake City. We've had a lot of excitement in this speed finals, the knockout format really providing for some tense moments. In particular, Sean Bailey, an underdog in round one, making it into the Final Four and ensuring himself a top 4 finish. And then on the other side, Nathaniel Coleman, who was kind of borderline even to make the Final Four. Certainly a huge underdog against John Brosler, who falls off the wall. So Coleman, an overall favorite, is guaranteed of no worse than second.
It's definitely a good position for both Nathaniel Coleman and Sean Bailey. Very unexpected for the both of them. And going into the bouldering and sport rounds, it's going to make it even more interesting and probably these points even closer.
There's your 4 finalists right now. Nathaniel Coleman on the far left and Sean Bailey on the far right. Sean, in qualifications, was first in bouldering and first in sport. So, really anything in the top 4 just gives him a huge leg up, assuming he does what he's accustomed to doing in the other 2 disciplines. For Nathaniel Coleman, though, a win here in speed. He's not the favorite, but if he wins, he has such a good cushion heading into the back 2 events that, quite honestly, it would make it very difficult for Sean Bailey to be anything less than perfect.
Exactly. It'll really put the pressure on Sean Bailey if Nathaniel Coleman is able to win. And in the qualification round of the bouldering yesterday, Nathaniel Coleman really didn't have a good day for himself. He climbed a lot worse than he normally does on boulders, so I'm expecting him to have a very good bouldering round today as well, which will also make it more difficult for Sean to end up being the winner.
Absolutely. We're going to have a brief pause here as the athletes have to take their allotted rest. A reminder, this speed course is the same one we'll see in 2020 in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. And really, it's the one barrier separating some of the very best climbers, like a Sean Bailey, from being considered like a lock to be an Olympian, because generally speaking, he doesn't do as well in speed. And when you make that a third of the score, it takes away his greatness in some of the other elements.
And really with this combined format, the speed discipline ends up being kind of somewhat of a wild card as well, because you just never know what can happen, because in a second you can slip and it can all be over. Even if you are someone like John Brosler, who is capable of having the fastest times, you can have one little mess up and that could ruin your whole ranking process. So yes, Sean Bailey needs to improve his speed climbing times, but at the same time, it's always going to be that discipline that really sets you up nicely that day in the competition.
Yeah, you can't really rely on whoever you're going against to fall. You've got to make sure you're putting pressure on him. John Brosler, going into this small final, this 3rd place race, will certainly be the favorite in this head-to-head matchup with Sean Bailey. And Brosler, he had a bottom 5 finish in bouldering, did not fare well in sport. This was his showcase. See what he can do in his final race.
And for John Brosler here, it would maybe be to his advantage to maybe not try to go as fast as he can and try to get a record, because he doesn't necessarily need to, but he needs a clean run, and he hasn't really had a clean run since the first run today.
Climbers on your mark.
This is the small final, the race for 3rd place in the speed discipline. John Brosler, the fastest American speed climber on the left. Sean Bailey, the best overall, on the right. Brosler leaps out to a great start. Flying up the wall.
Big slip for Sean Bailey.
That's a new record!
John Brosler may not have won the speed competition, but he is going to walk away with a new national record, and he seems to be so happy with that, as is everybody in this gym today. John explodes out of the start, and he just keeps his momentum going. He had a lot of time to make up, and he did it.
The first American to go sub 6 seconds, John Brosler. The only disappointment, it didn't come in the big final But everyone here in this climbing community knows just how great that run was. Perfection from John Brosler. It kind of feels like we had our dessert first. The fireworks from John Brosler. Nonetheless, the big final is next. Nathaniel Coleman, chance to score a first place finish heading into his stronger events, bouldering and sport, against Zach Galla on the right, who certainly is in the mix for the overall competition. Don't want to sell him short, but this is something he needs to put himself in a good position.
And I think no matter what, we're going to get a good race from these two athletes because their times are pretty similar and they both have the potential to go extremely fast. And I do think that what just happened with John Brosler has just psyched them up to do their best.
Climbers on your mark.
Nathaniel Coleman on the left versus Zach Galla on the right. Galla's been the faster speed climber and the model of consistency. All his times within 100th of a second of 6.83. Slip early, though, from Galla.
He's trying to make up the time. It looks like he may be able to catch Nathaniel Coleman, but it won't be fast enough.
Huge win for Nathaniel Coleman.
The look of disbelief has to be the fact that Nathaniel Coleman just got another PR in speed. I think that's his third or fourth PR from the weekend. At the beginning of this race, he got out of the start a lot faster, and Zach Galla had an early slip. He tried to make up the time, but he just wasn't able to do so. Getting super close to a sub-7 time. Nathaniel Coleman will be our big final winner, which will set him up so nicely for the rest of this competition.
Nathaniel Coleman scores a first place finish in speed. He certainly was helped by Zach Galla's slip, but he kept the pressure on with his best run ever. He's your winner in speed. What a run in our speed discipline here in Salt Lake City. The 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational men's finals off to a phenomenal start with Nathaniel Coleman, an upset winner in speed. He got a little bit of help from some of his head-to-head competitors slipping up a little bit, but he still puts himself in a great spot here to really contend for the overall title. Also in the small final, we had John Brosler become the first American to go sub-6 seconds on the speed course.
Yeah, all weekend, John has been wanting a shot at breaking his record, and after that devastating mess up earlier, this would have to be the cherry on top for the entire weekend for him.
No need to fast forward with him. He's moving fast enough already.
5.99 seconds. He has to be so excited.
I've had so many people watch speed and say, it looks like they're being hoisted up in the air. Trust us, he's not. Here are your standings after speed. Nathaniel Coleman, who came into that discipline as the 5 seed, able to score a huge win. That's big for him. Also have Zach Galla, John Brosler, and Sean Bailey getting a boost, finishing in 4th place. That was a bit of a surprise boost for him.
Definitely a helpful boost for Sean Bailey, especially because we expected John Brosler to be the #1 spot, but now since it's Nathaniel Coleman, it's going to be necessary for Sean to be in 4th place to even have a shot at coming out in the top 3, because Nathaniel Coleman will be great competition for him in the bouldering and sport competitions.
Keep in mind the way we'll determine our champion here in Salt Lake City. You take the ranking from each of the 3 disciplines and multiply them together. So Nathaniel Coleman has a first, say he finishes 2nd in each of the next 2 disciplines. 1 times 2 times 2 is 4. I got some help on the math already. So that would be his score. And, you know, other competitors who are chasing him, say Sean Bailey, who is already in the prelims, won in bouldering and sport. If he has back-to-back first places, his score is 4. So even though he might beat Coleman in both of the next 2 disciplines, it might not be enough.
Well, they would both have a score. Oh, no, yeah, you're right. It might not be enough, sorry. I can't do math.
Here's a look at the boulders, and that's bouldering is next. And you see some of the scoring holds, if you can call them that. If there weren't the markers there, you might not see them all. But basically, these are very complex problems for these athletes, and the goal is to make it to that 25-point hold with control.
Each of these marked placards are called zone holds, with 25 being the finishing hold. And that finishing hold, you must have 2 hands on in order to get the 25 points. For the zone hold, you only need control with 1 hand in order to get the points. But if you grab a hold that has no placard on it, that means you're just getting further in the boulder, but you're not being awarded points for those holds.
These are pretty devious problems. We did see a couple athletes have a lot of success in qualifying in bouldering. So there's certainly some hope for some high scores. The 3 best in it were Sean Bailey, Drew Ruana, and the youngster Colin Duffy, who all were able to complete each of the 5 boulders. Whether or not that's going to be possible on the 3 here today, it's going to be tough to find out. And we're going to actually get the expert opinion of our chief route setter for bouldering, Chris Danielson. He joins us here along the competition floor. Chris, thanks for taking the time. You set the boulders here today. I want to know, did you have these in mind before the competition began, or after seeing what took place yesterday, did you switch things up, make it easier or harder?
We did. We actually set these about 5 days ago. So we always set them in advance, the final round, and once we see what they're doing, we adjust them a little bit. In the case of the men, we actually made no adjustments from what we had earlier in the week. So qualifying round went well. We'll see how they do in the finals.
I was going to guess maybe you might have made them a little harder, but it's nice to know that they stayed the same. That means they're definitely going to be very difficult. And looking at these boulders, they look very challenging.
We'll see. It should be a diverse round. You know, we always do our best. It's 3 boulders. There's basically a low angle kind of slab technical problem. That's the first. The second that has a really tricky dynamic jump in it with a powerful finish. And then the third is just a lot of hard climbing throughout.
Now, yesterday I requested the jumps. Do I have my cliffhanger in here?
Oh, you're going to get one,
coming?
I think. I think you're going to get one. You're going to get some attempts at one at least. We saw with the women. We saw a lot of tries at jumps, and Kyra made it happen with a really big show on the third problem.
Speaking to Chris Danielson, our chief route setter here for bouldering, in the women's competition, we had 2 boulders that either had no one able to complete it or only 1 athlete able to complete it. Do you think there's something like that in store on these problems that maybe even these phenomenal climbers won't be able to figure out?
It's always so hard to say. I think if you'd ask us before the women, would we have expected them to be as hard? Probably not. So in this case, yeah, we think that there's going to be tops. We think the guys can do these problems. We think that, you know, maybe even 3, 4, 5 guys could do each. But you never know until they actually, what they're doing now, get a look at them and assess them and see who's climbing well.
You see the athletes, they're getting 2 minutes to assess each boulder. Does it tell you anything as a route setter when, you know, some of them go flying up there, and then there's a guy like Sean Bailey who aced the test in the qualifiers, who's just kind of hanging back and waiting his turn?
I think it's amazing, actually, even just watching the speed, because what I do think you can tell is who's confident. That's super important, and seeing how people are going to do is who's climbing with confidence, who goes in, who's previewing with confidence. Do they believe they can do it? Are they intimidated by the style? And when you see what just happened with speed, where Nathaniel goes and wins, and Sean does much better than he expected, yeah, you'd think these guys are coming in ready to go for bouldering.
And right now you see the athletes communicating with each other, kind of sharing information, trying to figure out how to do these boulders without actually getting on them yet. They're allowed to touch the starting holds and the starting holds only, but they're sharing their information, just trying to figure out a plan before they go back into isolation and before they start their 4 minutes of climbing.
Chris Danielson, our chief route setter, joining us here while the athletes, the competitors, inspect the boulders. Which one's the one with the big jump?
Probably the second. But
right.
Interesting thing about this first, and just as Megan was saying, you can see them just trying to assess what to do. Sometimes the problems are straightforward, and it's just whether they can do it or not. Oftentimes, it's whether or not they can figure it out. And this is an example where nothing's very clear in this first problem. What do you grab? What position do you take? Where are your feet? Is it going to be hard to hold on? Do you just have to crimp through it? You won't know until you're on it. So these guys are just trying to figure it out.
So the second one with the big jump's my favorite.
That's
What's your
the one
favorite? What's your favorite?
My favorite's always the round. The best thing is when you see a full round of good problems and where you get everything tested. So I'd love to see that this tricky technical problem can get done by someone who's really good at that style, and then somebody that can jump can show us what it looks like to do this big jump you want to see.
I mean, my favorite so far, by looking at it, would probably be the third. For some reason, it looks very interesting to me, and I think we're going to see a lot of the men have different ways of doing the boulder and just have to fight through the entire thing.
So they're about to get a look at this this big jump. Can't get to the big jump until you get off the start and move into this where the 5 hold is. It's a large gray shape, big gray volume. There's a pressing up position into that. And you take the 10 crimp, and you're just going a long distance, stabbing the foot out left and jumping into that 15.
And the start doesn't look like a gimme start. It looks kind of technical.
Yeah, we often talk about that. It's when there's a move, a boulder that has maybe a really special move, like a dynamic jump, something that will take a lot of attempts. You don't want to spend too much time trying to get into that position, but you also want to try to test the climbers in more than just one way. So in this case, it's not inconsequential to get into that position, but it's not that hard either. You'd expect probably that all the finalists are able to find the way through to at least attempting the jump. And then the question is, who's going to do it?
And there's still the possibility, though, of them messing up the beginning just a little bit and that coming back to their attempts and kind of separating everybody a little bit more.
That's right.
We're going to keep Chris around and take a quick break as the men inspect the boulders here in the finals in Salt Lake City. Welcome back to the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational inside Momentum Indoor Climbing in Salt Lake City. Sam Farber, Megan Martin, and the chief route setter for this bouldering course, if you will, is Chris Danielson, kind enough to join us here. The athletes are inspecting problem 3. Tell us some of the intricacies of this boulder.
Well, we were just seeing Nathaniel Coleman there take the first crimps. And this boulder is just, the way I describe it is just hard throughout. Sometimes there's problems that where you do an easy move and then a hard move and there's something tricky. This is just hard all the way. You see these large black volumes that they're trying to figure out, look at in the middle. It's not even clear from the ground how you hold these positions. And from our vantage point here, there's a better view. You can see these really small crimps that are screwed onto it. So not only do they have to hold these really bad, hard holds, they have to find the right body position through it. It's going to be a hard one.
And the body positions aren't very obvious, so they're going to spend a lot of time flipping their hands around, moving their feet around, and the more they hang there on that kind of a incline there, the more tired they're going to get, and it's their third boulder. So
that's right. One of the things that's hard for us to gauge is just the level of fatigue. It's a new competition for us to see these climbers go through multiple rounds of each discipline, and they just came off the speed route not too long ago after climbing already for a bit over this weekend. So this one should be hard by the time they get to the end of it.
Now, do you think that the 4 guys that did not make it to another speed climb because they got out in the first round will actually benefit in this boulder round from having that little bit of extra rest?
They could. We wondered that about the women as well. I think the difference between 15 minutes versus 30 as a rest, you know, it might have an effect. But like I was saying earlier, I personally feel like, I don't know what you think, Megan, but for me the confidence is really important. And if you go in with confidence, I think it can overtake the fatigue and you can push through it.
Chris Danielson, our chief route setter here for the boulder discipline. Thanks so much for joining us, and good luck to you competing against these athletes and these problems.
Thanks very much. Happy to be here, and we look forward to seeing the competitors do their thing.
Well, let's take a look at the start list for this bouldering discipline. It goes in reverse order of how they finished in speed. So Josh Levin, who had a fall in his first round speed attempt, will have to go first. Is currently the last place competitor. Nathaniel Coleman, who is kind of an upset winner in speed, will get a chance to go last. He gets the most rest of those who had to go up the speed wall 3 times.
I will say it will be exciting to see Nathaniel go last because he is very used to going last when it comes to a bouldering competition. So, you know, if some of these boulders don't get done before he comes out, he could be the guy to do it because he's been doing a really good job at being that guy before.
3 positions to watch, 2, 4, and 5. Colin Duffy, Drew Ruana, and Sean Bailey, because those were the 3 men who so far in this competition have yet to be stumped by a boulder. They have reached the 25-point hold in each and every one. That right there is Colin Duffy, who is in the on-deck circle. He will be second to attempt. First up is going to be Josh Levin, the 24-year-old from Sunnyvale. And again, they're very young ages, but 24. He's the oldest finalist.
He is the oldest finalist. Isn't that crazy? Just a 2-year difference from the oldest finalist in the women's competition. A thing to note about Colin Duffy is he came into the speed round in 8th, and he actually was able to move up 1 spot, which is going to serve him well because we were worried about that 8th spot for him.
See the 4 minutes on the clock. That's how much time they have to solve this problem, and you do have to solve it by the time the clock hits 000. You cannot be on the boulder when it runs out and continue your run. Wherever you are when it's 000, that is where it stops.
You're absolutely right. Once that clock is done down at 0, the judge will tell you to get off the wall and your time is over.
Josh Levin will be first.
Climbers, you may begin climbing now.
Josh bringing a towel out to put down in front of the boulder to make sure that he can clean off his shoes before he actually gets on the wall. I've been very impressed with Josh this weekend. I haven't seen him do this well in a while.
Josh Levin kicking off our bouldering competition here on boulder number 1. Something special for him coming in through qualifying. He's one of only 2 finalists to be top 8 in all 3 disciplines.
Yes, he's had a very good weekend. I have not seen him do this well in bouldering and sport in many years, so it's been really nice to see him have some sort of a comeback, I would say. He's looking really casual, standing on this volume. You see how he's dropping his heels in order to find his balance. He has already gotten control of the number 5 zone hold. He's just trying to figure out the best way for him to get into the 10 zone hold. As Chris Danielson said, this is a slab climb, so you have to move a lot slower, and there's a lot more technique involved in climbing it.
All smiles for the crowd. He's been playing to the audience here.
You know what? He did that in sport finals last year, and it was very entertaining. Just trying to find that right body position in order to get up to the 10 zone. He's going to be able to do it. Control of the 10. So he has 10 points already on his first attempt on this boulder.
You can see the 25-point hold. A couple spaces in front of him. Those are very slick surfaces, though, he is trying to balance himself on.
He's balancing and he's having to engage his entire body, all of his muscles, so that he doesn't slip, because you would think when you're standing on something you don't want to push as hard, or you might be afraid to, but when it's a slab like that, you need the pressure of your foot on the hold in order to actually stand on it. Oh, just a little bit off on the body position, but a very good first effort and plenty of time to give it another go.
Took more than half the clock in bouldering. How many attempts do you generally think you want?
In a 4-minute round, you're gonna usually get between like 2 to 3 tries. Now, if it's a jump move and it's early in the boulder, you might be able to get between 5 and 6, but you definitely don't want to overexert yourself either, especially on the first boulder.
I appreciate you not saying 1, because that is the point, but yes. Attempt number 2 here for Josh Levin on boulder 1.
He's got
24
the
years old from Sunnyvale.
zone hold worth 5 points.
You have 1 minute remaining.
He's been here before, trying to get back to his high point in hopes to increasing his score by making it to the 15 zone. Has to get to the 10 first, which he already has credit for from his previous attempt, but
moving a little quicker, but still very deliberately.
when you've been on the moves a time before, you know them a little bit better, so you can move more confidently through them usually. But it's still, when it's this kind of angle, you have to be moving somewhat slow just to stay in control. He's trying really hard to figure out how to not fly off of this move. The clock is ticking down, and he knows it. Just trying to get to that 15 to increase his score. Oh, he's going to lose it, unfortunately.
So, a 10 score for Josh Levin here on boulder number 1.
So much focus on problem number 1.
Time.
Here's a look at Colin Duffy, the youngest, smallest, lightest competitor.
With so much talent and the future of USA climbing.
Might be the present too.
Yeah, right.
Certainly capable of winning this competition.
Taking a second to brush the holds.
Colin Duffy leaping onto boulder number 1, the 15-year-old bouldering phenom.
He's already got the 5. He jumped on this boulder so quickly, which is exactly what I would expect from Colin Duffy. He moves confidently through boulders. When he feels good, he moves. And he's making pretty quick work of this, already to the 10 on his first attempt.
In qualifications, there were 5 bouldering problems. He solved all 5, one of only 3 competitors to do so.
He does climb well on these little holds too. Seeing if he can figure out a way to get to the 15. Moving cautiously, but in a deliberate fashion right now. Just trying to figure out if he can get there. Oh, beautiful move by Colin Duffy. Got to the 15, and he's gonna get the 25, but he's gonna match. Got a match, and he matches. Colin Duffy with a flash of the first boulder. This kid is on fire.
Unbelievable stuff. Colin Duffy, 1 for 1 today, 6 for 6 in bouldering this weekend.
Colin was looking so smooth through the entire boulder, and getting that 15, he made it look so easy, and he was able to quickly get to 25. Only had 2 fingers on the 15. That tiny little hold, he has it with 2 fingers and is able to control it. This just shows you how strong this kid is.
Kai Leitner taking his turn on boulder number 1. Kai, one of our overall favorites certainly to be in this final coming into the weekend. He is the tallest and heaviest of the climbers. What kind of advantages and disadvantages does that put forth for him, Megan?
So far, we've already seen kind of a disadvantage on this first boulder. The other competitors we've seen have been able to kind of just stand there with the number 5, but for him it was much lower, so he had to take a different approach to get past the number 5 hold and using it in a different manner. But, you know, Kai is a very experienced climber, and he's learned how to adapt to his height. He also is very flexible, which serves him well. On the 10 zone now, and it's his first attempt still, so he's climbing very well. Just trying to figure out how to get to the 15 and stay in control on those slippery volume feet.
Has a wingspan of 6'8". That's the largest in the field. He's got the 15.
Using his span there, that definitely helped him. The beginning might have not suited him, but that move is very nice for Kai, getting the 15, and I think he'll be able to get to the 25 if he doesn't swing out too much. Oh, no! Oh, a bit of a slip there. A lot of time left on the clock. Definitely an unfortunate slip for Kai, because he could have flashed that boulder, which would have helped him a lot, but he has plenty of time, and I think if he climbs it the same way, just a little more conscious of his foot placement, he'll be okay.
Halfway through his allotted 4 minutes.
Just taking a few seconds for a little regroup there.
Kai Leitner ready to take his second attempt here on boulder 1. He had a hand on the 25-point final hold on his first attempt, but could not lock it in to flash this boulder problem.
And right here, he has to be very careful with his leg. There is black tape to the left of him, and if his foot goes past it, he can be called down. So he's being conscious by trying not to get past that black tape.
Third attempt for Kai Leitner here on boulder number 1. Tallest and longest wingspan athlete in the competition.
Trying to move slowly to get back in that position that he was in before to get to the 10 zone.
You have 1 minute
Got to be really
remaining.
careful with that foot over there. Able to get back to that good position. He should be in a solid position to get to the 10. Kind of regrouping here.
Struggling to find his footing.
Those volumes are so slippery. And it's hard to know where you placed your foot the time before. 30 seconds are remaining. Definitely enough time for him to finish, but he needs to make sure he's being careful and very conscious of all of his body movements. Gets the 15. He's been here before. He knows that he needs to be a little more careful when he gets to the finish hold, going with a different hand this time. Gets the control there with one hand and two hands, and that's a top for Kai Leitner.
Kai Leitner able to solve problem 1 here in the bouldering finals. Stepping up next is Drew Ruana. Sorry, Megan.
My bad. Drew Ruana taking a quick look at the boulder. Being back in isolation, he's had to hear the scream, so he knows this boulder is doable.
Drew Ruana next up on boulder number 1. Just like Colin Duffy and Sean Bailey, he was able to go 5 for 5 in qualifiers in bouldering.
That was a nice dynamic move there from Drew Ruana. We have not seen it done that way before. He has amazing body control. He just needs to get his left foot on like he just did. Very nice. Into the 10 pretty quickly. And hearing the crowd, everybody in isolation now knows that this boulder has been done a couple times just by the noise from the crowd. So there's a little more pressure to get to the 25.
Slight slip, and down he goes.
It also might be a good time to brush. Hopefully he does that. Very good. Those volumes can get very slippery, especially if people aren't brushing after every try.
Now with the chalk, layman, you're thinking that makes it stickier. Why do you want to brush it off?
It definitely helps you grab the hold better, but if there's chalk all over the holds where you're standing, it definitely makes it more slippery. And over time, the more chalk that builds up on the handholds too can become slippery. So you just have to keep cleaning it off, but you are always chalking up before you climb.
Second attempt for Drew Ruana, who so far this weekend has yet to be stumped by a bouldering problem. He's got 2.5 minutes left to figure this one out.
Really floating through the beginning as if it was no problem for him. Just needs to find the right body position here. He's already gotten the 10 on his first try, so the 15 would be the next point value that he needs. Really being careful with his feet this time. He knows it's a subtle movement. Oof. What shoulder strength and control just showed by Drew Ruana, easily getting to 25. He needs to match. Gave us a little one arm at the end, and that's a top for Drew Ruana.
Drew Ruana able to solve problem number 1. We'll take a quick break here in Salt Lake City, halfway through boulder number 1 for the 8 best male climbers in America. The 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational is brought to you by The North Face, inspiring and enabling exploration since 1966. Back in Salt Lake City, Utah, beautiful snow-swept Wasatch Mountains outside, and one of the most beautiful climbers you'll ever see in terms of his form and his ability, Sean Bailey, ready to get on boulder number 1. He has yet to be stumped by a boulder this weekend. Sean Bailey, our overall number 1 seed, coming into the finals, making his first attempt and an early slip.
Definitely a little mistake there for Sean Bailey. As you can see, he knows it.
So that misstep is going to deduct 1/10 of a point from whatever his overall score is, knowing his abilities, having heard the crowd, how confident do you think he is he's going to solve this one?
I think he's definitely confident that he can do this boulder, and he knows he shouldn't have fallen at the beginning. But as long as he gets there, you know, you can't go back with little falls, and it shouldn't hurt him too much. Just trying to figure out how exactly he can be more in control on that number 10 hold for the rest of his body. He needs to get his left foot there. Oh.
Second fall for Sean Bailey in her brush boulders.
Definitely a really good idea to be brushing right now because they get so greasy. Looks like he just needs to focus a little bit more. Sometimes coming out and having to be on a slab angle right away. If you're moving a little too quickly, you have to kind of bring it back, and it takes a little bit. He still has plenty of time, and he's definitely capable of doing this boulder, and he knows that too, and that'll play an important role in being successful on the boulder.
Third attempt on boulder number 1 underway here for Sean Bailey. 2 early slips for someone who really breezed through bouldering the first time around, had the best overall score, only fell twice total in attempts in qualifying.
And he just did the right thing with his foot. He crossed through with his left foot, setting him up nicely to then put both hands on the number 10. Now he has to be careful here because this is where the volumes are very slippery for your feet, and he needs to get to that 15. Oh my goodness, he almost held that still. Definitely wasn't in the best position to control the number 15, but he's so strong he almost was able to do it even with his feet slipping.
Now, even though he was able to touch the 15-point hold, in your mind, he did not establish control.
Exactly. He was definitely not in control of that hold as he was falling out from the wall. So unfortunately, his score is still just going to be with the 10-point zone, so he still needs to get to that 15. And really, he needs to get to the 25 if he wants to stay in the game.
1 minute left.
1 minute remaining.
Fourth attempt on boulder 1 for Sean Bailey. He's already fallen more times here in this first boulder of the finals than he did on the 5 total boulders during qualifications.
And that's why bouldering is always another wild card discipline. Really, I think the most consistent discipline is sport because generally the same people will do well, whereas speed, there can be a slip up, and in bouldering, you just don't know if the round's going to suit you as well. Hoping he can figure out a way to get to the 15 by keeping his feet on. Oh, wow, and that was a risky move, trying to go a dynamic way. He knows that he should have done better here.
Sean Bailey, who is normally, he's throughout this weekend, all smiles all the time, definitely frustrated on problem 1 here in bouldering.
All right, please give it up for John Brosler.
Next up is John Brosler, our new national record holder in speed. He's not really new. He had the old one too, but he's the first one to go under 6 seconds.
Which is quite a feat and should definitely be celebrated. Now, John is pretty good at this style of climbing.
Y'all remember that time John Brosler broke the U.S. speed record?
John Brosler, 5.99 seconds to go up the speed course. He'll take a little longer here on boulder number 1.
It would definitely be a good idea to take a little longer here. I feel like in recent years he's gotten better at his slab climbing. That was an unfortunate slip, but he should at least be getting to the 10 on this boulder, if not actually doing it.
John Brosler making his second attempt here on boulder number 1. In qualifiers, he was in the bottom 5 of the 23 total competitors we had here in Salt Lake City. So even though that it might not be that weekend of an event for him in general, he has not fared well against this set of problems.
Yeah, he's struggled a bit with the boulders and the sport climbs this weekend, but here he is getting to the 10. Oh, almost. He definitely I would say he got control there because he grabbed it and then he was trying to move up on the volume. That was the 10 zone. But it is up to the judges, but if I was judging, I think that would be the call I would make. But we'll have to wait and see.
Each zone is marked by the number on the hold that it is assigned to. So if you get control of the 5-point hold, you have a potential score of 5. Not much of a hold there, but that's what it is. John Brosler making another attempt here on boulder number 1. He's got about half of his allotted 4 minutes of time and still having trouble getting his footing.
Definitely struggling with this balance at the start. Sometimes it's working for him, sometimes it doesn't.
John Brosler, the American record holder in speed, now on the first boulder problem of these finals. And he's still having trouble figuring it out.
Ever so slightly losing his balance there. That's a hard moment to have where you can feel yourself falling away from the wall, but you think you can hold it, and then you just end up on the ground.
Some of the other climbers, including all the ones that have finished to my recollection, all brought their chalk bag with them. Sean Bailey didn't bring it with him. John Brosler's not bringing it with him. What kind of factor is that?
Very good observation there. When it comes to a slab climb, it's definitely a smarter idea, in my opinion, to wear a chalk bag. In any boulder round, I generally would, just in case, because you don't want to get to a certain point on the boulder and realize that you need to chalk up and not have your chalk bag there. But not everybody chooses to bring it.
Under a minute left, John Brosler back up on boulder number 1. He reached the 10-point hold, but it's unclear whether or not he had control of it. So he might know. He might have checked with the judge already, but we don't know at this point whether or not he got credit for it.
Exactly, and the athletes can ask the judge questions, whether it be if something is on, if they can't go around a corner, if they got control for something. They're always allowed to communicate with the judge.
He's going to call it quits with 20 seconds left. Doesn't feel he has time to get further than 10. And so we are still with just 3 competitors who've been able to solve boulder problem 1.
All right, next up, we've got Zach Galla.
Zach Galla is next.
Climbers may begin climbing now.
He's going to immediately start brushing these formations here and boulder problem 1.
Especially when you come out later on a boulder like this, and since these men got to preview these boulders, they know that brushing is going to be very important in terms of their success on a boulder that's so finicky. Zach Galla is a phenomenal boulderer. Did really well last year at Bouldering Nationals, making finals.
Zach Galla making his first attempt on boulder number 1. He was our 2nd place finisher in speed, so a great start to his final. And he is one of the stronger boulderers in the competition as well.
Definitely working his way through this boulder with ease, already on the 10 zone. Just having to make sure he finds the right positions. And you know, everyone's going to do it a little differently. But it's definitely necessary to find the right position while you're on the wall, which it looks like he has. Now this next move seems to be the move that is the most difficult, but once you get the 15, getting to the 25 doesn't seem to be as difficult. The pinch strength he has in his left hand, I don't think I saw anyone grab it that way. And then he gets that little number 15 zone with 2 fingers. Just has to hold the swing. Oh, able to walk his feet through, which was a smarter decision. And that's 1 hand, 2 hands, and that is a flash for Zach Galla.
Fist bump, and Zach Galla has figured out boulder problem 1.
Setting an early precedent for one-arm today.
Zach Galla just reaching through to the finish move, or finish hold by doing a rose move, which we saw in the women's final on the sport route. It's a really nice move, very difficult to reach through, and then to come out of the move can be very difficult too, but No problem for Zach Gallo.
This is our local favorite, Nathaniel Coleman, making his first attempt at Boulder 1 and kind of falling into that formation there, giving a smile.
He almost saved it.
Nathaniel Coleman, 22 years old, from Murray, Utah, making his second attempt here on Boulder number 1. Now, he's a crowd favorite every climbing competition he goes to, but when you're 15 minutes away from home, you bring a few more guests.
Oh, definitely a fan favorite here today. I think the crowd was the loudest I've heard them all day when he ended up winning speed and getting another PR just moments ago.
Even with the PR, he was a bit of a surprise winner in speed. Needed some help from some other competitors having some mistakes. Nonetheless, he's your leader overall as we have begun bouldering. Each of the 3 climbing disciplines, your ranking will be multiplied together. So having a 1 in any column is huge.
And he's climbing really well on this boulder already. Definitely approaching those subtle movements with caution, but still control and confidence, which is necessary. Should be a little easier for him to, ooh, no. Little foot slip there. Looked like he was about to set up to go to the 15, but unfortunately he lost his balance.
Solving this problem would be massive for him, considering Sean Bailey didn't.
It would definitely put him even more in a place to win the overall if he can do this boulder. And he has plenty of time to do so. And the beginning, luckily, does not seem to be giving him too much trouble, so we should be able to see him get back to that position, approaching the 15 again.
Third attempt for Nathaniel Coleman in qualifying. By his standards, he struggled in this discipline, but generally speaking, he's one of the best boulderers in the field.
Definitely one of the best boulderers. He has won the last 2 bouldering nationals, and he also did all 4 boulders in both of those nationals without falling, I believe, which is kind of crazy. So he definitely has the ability to come out on top in this competition, and a top here would definitely set him up nicely.
See that 25-point zone. He has to get control with 2 hands on that 25-point zone to top this boulder. 1 minute left to do it.
He's been chalking up when he can. Ooh, little slip there, but it looks like he got it under control. Needs to get to this 15 and really keep the pressure on the foot. He's eyeing it up. Oh, man, just not there. Really close,
40 seconds
though.
left. He's going to jump after it. Time for one more attempt here for Nathaniel Coleman. Just over 30 seconds left on his 4-minute clock as he gets back here on Boulder 1.
And it's not always the smartest thing to jump back on a boulder with that little time left, but being that there are only 3 boulders and he's heard people cheer, letting him know that other people have done this boulder, he knows that he needs to. So getting back on this boulder is a great idea for him. Running out of time, but
patience from others. He's got 5 seconds.
Oh, good last second try. Unfortunately, no sun for Nathaniel Coleman on this boulder.
Good effort, but Nathaniel Coleman unable to solve problem 1. We're going to take a quick break. Boulder 2 in front of our 8 men's finalists in Salt Lake City. This is the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational in Salt Lake City. We are in our bouldering finals. Each of our 8 male finalists taking on these 3 bouldering problems. Your score from all 3 added together. You're put into a rank, and that rank is multiplied by your rank from the other 2 disciplines to figure out your final score. Sam Farber, Megan Martin here with you, and we're seeing Josh Levin take on boulder number 2. Josh Levin off and running here on boulder number 2. You see the score he got on problem 1, a 10. Each one is out of a 25-point max.
And this boulder is going to be a lot different from the last one. It's a little more dynamic. Right now we're seeing a cool press move. Right now he has the 5 by pressing into that volume, the gray volume, which those little tiny black holds are screwed onto. It's worth 5. Now he has the 10, but this is the move. It's gonna be a swing, kick to your foot out, and jump. Oh, good effort by Josh Levin there. So you've got a technical beginning on this boulder, but then it goes right into a super powerful dynamic movement that's gonna be pretty difficult for these guys to catch. You're also gonna be seeing the men rest a little more on this boulder because they'll exert more energy.
Boulder number 2 underway. On attempt number 2 is Josh Levin, and if you like cliffhanger moments in climbing, this is your boulder.
This is definitely your boulder because we have a really fun dynamic movement where they're gonna have to swing their foot out to that other black volume, get the hand out left on the second gray volume and come into that pocket hold. A very powerful move, but then a lot of coordination and timing necessary in order to make it work. Let's get a bigger swing this time, a little bit closer, and whew, a really intense fall.
It doesn't look where he's reaching for, like that's, you know, a clear hold with, you know, something to grip. What is it he's trying to latch onto up there?
He's just trying to get high enough on that hold so then he can jump into the pocket, which is the 15 zone hold, because he'll be able to grab onto that better.
Third attempt for Josh Levin here on boulder problem number 2. Second of 3 disciplines here at the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational.
He did a better job last time of generating more momentum. Oh, this is an interesting way to try and do it. He's gonna try to go static. Unfortunately, doesn't look like that's gonna work.
When you say static, what are you referring to?
Static being that slower, more controlled movement. The jump that he was trying to do is a dynamic movement where you need to use your momentum to propel yourself to the next hold, but you're generally not as in control as you would be with a static movement.
You have 1 minute
1 minute
remaining.
left. Josh Levin jumping back on boulder problem number 2 with less than a minute remaining. He's attached his chalk bag for this attempt. What does that tell you about what he's going to try and do?
To me, that means that after the jump, he just wants to make sure he's ready in case he needs to. Oh, wow. He tried to do that static method again, and it looked like it was maybe gonna work that time. I really think that he might be falling out too far in order for that to work. I don't think those feet are good enough for that to be the way.
He wants the crowd. He knows he's got 20 seconds left, so he's got to hurry.
Definitely needs to move quickly.
10
See
seconds.
if he decides to go dynamic or static. Looks like it's the dynamic way. Oh, so much better. Unfortunately, if he would have just brought his right hand into the 15, I think he would have done it.
Good effort from Josh Levin, but he is stumped here by boulder number 2. Here's Colin Duffy.
Looking ready to attack this next boulder. He's got his brush in hand. Gonna brush off those holds before he gets going here. And it doesn't take him long to get going. He'll brush and then he'll be on the wall in a flash.
Climbers may begin climbing now.
Colin Duffy has attempted 6 boulders this weekend in Salt Lake City. He has completed all 6. 15-year-old Colin Duffy making his first attempt here on boulder problem number 2. He solved boulder 1 in his first attempt.
Already has the 5 here. Looking pretty comfortable. Gonna have to match that, which means putting 2 hands on that small hold. Has the 10 now, and he's gonna get ready to set up for this jump. Lots of coordination and power involved. Ooh, very nice. Definitely a very good first try. When it comes to these coordination jumps, the more you do the jumps and just the coordination moves in general, the easier they become because your body kind of understands them a little better each time. So for his first attempt to get his hand on the hold like that, it's really looking good for him to try and solve this boulder.
Colin Duffy making his second attempt here on boulder number 2. Colin Duffy on his second attempt on boulder number 2. He is the shortest competitor at 5 feet tall. This boulder seems to require a pretty big jump. How much more difficult does that get for him at 5 feet?
I mean, it's probably more difficult, but he's such a good jumper, I don't think it's gonna matter. Oh, so close. I mean, I do believe that if he was a little taller, the jump would be easier, but because he's so good at jumping, I don't think it's gonna be too detrimental to him.
He's got about half his allotted 4 minutes remaining because this is such a powerful, as you said, dynamic move. How many attempts does he really have at this?
He could definitely have around 4 to 5 attempts probably, because for him at least the first part's not giving him too much trouble.
Let's see if third try's the charm for Colin Duffy here on boulder problem number 2. He solved boulder number 1 in his first attempt for the full 25 points.
He knows what he needs to do here. He just needs to have the timing a little better and just get a little higher on this hold. Here he goes. Oh, man, he is getting closer and closer every time. With a little more height off of that first hold that he grabs with his left hand, I think he'll be able to get into the pocket.
That hold that he's trying to latch onto, is it possible even to hang on with one hand, or is the way it's shaped, you gotta just use it to boost yourself to the 15?
Exactly, it's just a booster hold to the 15, because as you can see, the pocket is very deep, and when you have both of them, you can compress between the two.
Under a minute remaining for Colin Duffy here on boulder number 2. In qualifications and in today's final, he has seen 6 boulders before and he's solved them all. So now he's under some pressure to stay perfect.
He got so close last time, so I know he's looking to try and get up in there. Oh, man, he couldn't have been closer. Oh, 30 seconds, and he's gonna get back on the wall. The youngest competitor knows that he can do this boulder, and he's gonna give it all he's got with just seconds left. Gonna have to move. Even if he doesn't finish, the 15 would be super helpful to get. Setting up for the jump, Colin Duffy's gonna go for it. Oh, unfortunately, not gonna happen today, but what an effort from Colin Duffy.
First time this weekend, Colin Duffy has failed to complete a bouldering problem.
What else can you ask for? Give it up one more time for Kai Leiter, back on stage.
Next up on boulder number 2, it's our tallest competitor, Kai Leitner.
Now this definitely is a boulder where Kai's height might be helpful for that jump move.
Kai Leitner making his first attempt on boulder problem number 2. You see the score of 24.8. That means he did complete boulder 1, but it took him 2 tries.
This is interesting. Again, we're seeing Kai have to do the beginning of the boulder a little differently with his height. Having to make sure that the moves aren't too bunched up for him. Ooh, 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 a little foot slip there. He always has really good falls. They're very entertaining. If he can get in a better position to get into the 10 zone, I think the jump will be a bit easier for him.
Kai Leitner making his second attempt here on boulder number 2. As our tallest competitor at 6'2", and with a big jump required to solve this one, he might be the athlete in the best position for it.
Definitely for the jump. But I love when the route setters do this kind of thing where, sure, the jump might end up being easier for Kai, but it's not like the whole boulder is easier, because this beginning is definitely harder for him with his height. Oh. Good effort. He was very close. He's definitely going to need to try to get his feet out left in order to be in the right position, although he could do it with his feet to the right if he can figure out the right body position for his height on this boulder. For route setters, when you have a competition where you're dealing with athletes in so many different heights, you have to try and just figure out a way that it's somewhat fair for everybody.
I think you need a little juice. Give a little juice now.
Kai Leitner has the crowd behind him as he makes a third attempt here on boulder number 2.
Back into the 5. He got the 10 on this on his last attempt, trying a different way this time. This is better for him to try and get his feet out left so he can set up for the jump better. Be a good idea if, oh. Definitely a risky move there. Would have been nice if he could go into the little crimp hold on the gray volume and then sink down to set up for the swing to try and jump to the 15.
About 40 seconds, Kai Leitner.
Fourth attempt for Kai Leitner here on boulder number 2. Second of 3 boulders in this discipline.
Trying to figure out a way to set up for this jump better. Unfortunately, he's looking so bunched every time he tries to get over there. Really, there we go. This is what he needs to do. If he can, yes, 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 that's it. Now he should be able to get it. Yeah, oh no! Oh, so close. Great climbing from Kai Leitner.
Boulder number 2 continues to befuddle our climbers. Here's Drew Ruana. He was able to solve boulder 1. He'll make an effort to go 2 for 2 now.
Climbers may begin climbing now.
Taking a second to check out the boulder again, make sure he remembers exactly what he wants to do after his preview.
Drew Ruana ready to attack boulder number 2. As you see, he solved boulder 1 on his second attempt.
He's been moving confidently through the first boulder and now the second boulder, which is really important. And he knows this is a jump, so he needs to figure out how to set it up with enough power to try and get to that 15. Good effort. Able to at least slap the hold that he needs to boost him to that 15 zone. Trying to get some brushing in there. As one of the later climbers coming out, we've had a lot of rubber and chalk on these holds already.
One minute into his allotted 4-minute time. He's chalking up right now, but he's not bringing the bag with him. Drew Ruana making his second attempt on boulder number 2.
We haven't seen anyone get to that 15 zone hold yet. Drew Ruana had a very good first attempt in terms of getting his body in the right positions or trying to figure out how to do this coordination move. Oh, interesting. Instead of trying to go 1-2, and by 1-2 I mean one hand and then the other to the left hold and the 15, he tried to go 1-2 to the bad sloper that we're seeing on the screen right now. So if he tries that again and just brings his right hand to the 15, I think he could do it.
That thumb hole that the 15 tape seems to be pointing towards, that's the target.
Yes.
Drew Ruana back on boulder number 2. No one has made it even to the 15-point scoring zone so far.
He has a lot of time. If he doesn't get it this time, he definitely has time for another attempt. But I think he knows what to do this time. Yeah. Oh! That's it. He's got it. He understands what he needs to do now, and he has plenty of time to do it. I think we're gonna see it for our new high point on this boulder. If Drew Ruana can just put it all together on this next try.
Seems extremely excited. The teenage Redmond, Washington native might have this one figured out. He's got 1:20 left to prove it.
And I just really am loving Drew's confidence when it comes to climbing. And you know, he hasn't been doing adult comps that long. It's been a couple years. Oh no!
Still a minute
Wild
left.
fall for Drew Ruana. He wants it bad. I think he jumped so hard and he got his fingers into the pocket, but unfortunately, when he hits the pocket, he kind of slips right out of it and ends up turning and falling on his back. Really good effort from Drew Ruana. He clearly wants to do this boulder, and he's gonna give it all he's got.
Might be his last attempt right here. Crowd was clapping along as he was about to attempt that swing. Let's see if they do it again. Let's see if he can pull it off.
Setting up for this jump. All about the coordination here with that hand. Ah! Drew Ruana sticks it, but it's not over. Still a delicate move. A delicate move. He needs to get into the 25.
10 seconds.
Trying to figure it out. See if he can make it worth his while. Oh, one hand, but not two hands on the 25. But the 15 zone will be a high point for Drew Ruana.
Some serious excitement for what is ultimately a failed effort to reach the top. Drew Ruana completes the jump. First man to do it on Boulder 2. Boulder Problem 2 has befuddled the first 4 male competitors that have attacked it, but maybe Sean Bailey, one of the world's best, can figure it out.
And I think it's a good sign that we saw Drew Ruana figure it out a bit. These two have grown up climbing together at the Vertical World team. They train together, so.
Sean Bailey, the #1 seed entering competition here in this final, has not had his best start in bouldering. He was unable to complete that one, but so far no one's been able to figure this one out. So if he tops and gets the 25, he'll be in really good shape moving forward.
He could definitely use a top here. It would definitely make him feel better, I'm sure, going into the final boulder, because he really should have done the previous boulder. And I will say that this kind of jump move, at least coming into the pocket, is something that Sean is so good at. So we'll see if he can get the power. Oof. Not really the momentum. He is kind of holding his neck there. Wonder if he's having a little injury problem over there. But the jump there to that volume was not the most powerful. He didn't really have the right body position. If he can figure out that body position, I feel like that swing that you have when you come into the 15 will be something that he can do.
He was wearing some tape on the back of his neck before in competition.
I saw that earlier, yeah. It's not there anymore, but he definitely was grabbing it as if he was in pain. Not really ideal.
Second attempt for Sean Bailey here on boulder #2. Sean was able to complete all 5 boulders in qualifying, but failed in his attempt to figure out boulder #1 here today in the finals.
Let's see if he can get a better swing going for this move. Yes! See, he can definitely do that move. Unfortunately, when he came into the 15 that time, he kind of hit the outside of the hold above that little hole, which is what we call a pocket. So he just kind of had his timing off a little bit. As long as he can get his fingers into the pocket without hitting anything else. You see his hand go above and kind of fumble to try to get into the hole. Even one less fumble there, and I think he would have had it. So plenty of time left for Sean to do this, and now he knows what he needs to do.
Less than 90 seconds remaining on the clock here for Sean Bailey as he attempts boulder number 2, and the crowd is behind him, clapping along, anticipating the jump he'll have to make to get to the 15-point scoring zone.
And hopefully he's able to make the jump here, but after he needs to be able to keep it together because the boulder is not over. Oh, a little low on the jump that time. He definitely had more power in the previous attempt.
Continues to grab at his neck. Was seen yesterday getting some work after the competition. Here's the jump.
He has his hand in the pocket, but he's just not high enough to really grab the pocket and control the swing there.
Under a minute remaining for Sean Bailey. This could be his final attempt at boulder number 2, and it's one he needs.
He definitely needs to do this, and he knows he needs to do it. Setting up for that jump again. Yes! Now, he needs to keep it together here. Everyone's extremely excited, and I'm sure he is too, but this boulder is not over. This is a subtle movement to the 25. Unfortunately, thwarts another competitor. Good effort by Sean Bailey. The 15 will be very helpful. Unfortunately, he did not get the top, but he's in a better position.
Sean Bailey, outstanding effort, and the second competitor to reach the 15-point scoring zone.
Really powerful jump from Sean Bailey, and he was able to get his hand in the pocket. He swings so far out, but is so strong and able to control his body. Gets a little messed up here. It's a little difficult. It's more technical at the top than I think these competitors are realizing.
Looked like he had his ring finger in that tiny pocket, trying to hoist yourself up by one finger. Unbelievable. Next up on boulder problem 2 is John Brosler. John was our #1 ranked speedster through qualifiers. Bouldering, however, was not his best event. He was in the bottom 5 out of the 23-man field in qualifiers.
Very strong shoulder move there that John Brosler just did, establishing the 5 zone hold, working his way to the 10. Ooh, ooh. Questionable whether or not he's going to get control for that 10. Looked like it to me, but we'll have to wait and see. Plenty of time to progress in this boulder.
How would you assess his leaping ability?
He is pretty powerful, so he could do the jump. It's just going to be more about making sure he can get his finger into the pocket and holding the swing more so than the actual height of the jump. He's strong legs.
21-year-old Texas native John Brosler making his second attempt here on boulder number 2.
Trying to get back up to the 5. This is a very powerful way to do that move.
He's our new national record holder in speed, and I mean, he was leaping up that well. Now he knows where all those holds are, but is that skill set translated all to something like this?
Oh, definitely. To be a speed specialist, you have to have extremely strong legs. So something like this jump, he should be good at getting the height for. Again, I would say it's more about will he be able to hold the swing and get his finger into the pocket.
Third attempt for John Brosler on boulder number 2. He's about halfway through his 4 minutes of allotted time.
Going for the 5. It's a little stuck there. This is a much better way, less energy exerted than the way he was doing that first move before. Sometimes you do something one way and you think, oh, this works, but it could be harder than it needs to be. Setting up for the jump. Oof. Not a bad attempt at the jump. Just doesn't have his body in the right position. His whole body was going to the right. He needs it to continue left so that he can come into the pocket.
1 minute remaining.
Less than a minute remaining in his 4-minute period here on boulder number 2.
Go, John. All right, y'all. Let's let him have it.
Likely time for one more attempt here for John Brosler on boulder number 2. Clock just over 30 seconds.
Getting back into the groove of this boulder, making his way to the 5. Needs to set up for the jump in a little bit of a different body position. I think if he could bring his left foot in, he'd be better set up. Unfortunately, don't think it's gonna be enough time for him to do any more on this boulder.
10 seconds.
So far, Sean Bailey, Drew Ruan are the only 2 who have reached the 15-point scoring zone.
All right, welcome back, Zach Collins to the stage.
Climbers, you may begin
Zach
climbing
Gallas
now.
stepped out in front of his second boulder, taking a moment to brush the holds, making sure that he is going to have the optimal amount of success on this boulder. I think he's really gonna like this one. He is extremely powerful, as we got to see when he competed in the speed portion of this competition. He would explode out of the start. So I think he has a good chance of being able to get to that 15. Now, the only problem with everyone who's gotten to the 15 so far is they're not realizing that there's a technical element to the end of this boulder. They're thinking it's the jump and it's over.
Zach Galla making his first attempt at boulder number 2. He aced the first one, and having finished second in speed, if he's able to top here, he would be in a phenomenal position for the remainder of the competition.
Yeah, that would be really great. Zach Galla is doing a little different sequencing here on this boulder. Looked a little difficult too. Maybe he'll try something different on his next attempt.
These climbers have not seen what their fellow competitors have done.
They always have a plan after their preview, but you never know until you get on the boulder.
Second try for Zach Galla on boulder number 2.
Definitely a better way to get into this boulder, realizing that there was an easier way. Now he's going to set up for this jump. Ooh! Really good attempt by Zach Galla. Knows that he can make that jump. Hopefully he's thinking about what he needs to do after getting 15, because we've yet to see anyone solve that part of the puzzle. Not taking too much rest.
Third attempt for Zach Galla on boulder number 2. He's got about half of his 4 minute of allotted time to go. And he was pretty close to reaching that 15-point scoring zone the last attempt.
Definitely capable of doing the move to the 15 zone. We're gonna see him set up for the jump right here. Oh, and Zach Galla does the jump. Now he just needs to figure out what is the best way to get to the 25. We have yet to see anyone do the move to the 25 and stick it. Oh, unfortunately not this try. But at least Zach Galla knows now that he has to not only think about the jump, but he needs to have a plan for the ending, because it's not as easy as it looks from the ground. Luckily, he has just over a minute, so he can figure out what he needs to do to top this boulder.
I was going to say, we've seen 2 other competitors reach that 15-point hold, but no one's had a second chance afterwards really at it. He's the first one to get a second crack.
Exactly.
Zach Galla back on boulder number 2. On his previous attempt, he reached the 15-point scoring zone. A couple other competitors have done that before, but none had time on the clock to try it again afterwards. He does.
Oh. Is he gonna go again? Oh, not gonna take that extra try. Really good effort from Zach Galla. Unfortunately not able to top, but made it to that 15 zone.
Well, the door is back open for Nathaniel Coleman here in the bouldering competition. Half the field top boulder number 1. He wasn't in that group, but no one's top number 2. So if he does it, he's right back in there with the leaders. The local favorite, Nathaniel Coleman, making his first attempt on boulder number 2.
This would be a great place for Nathaniel to move himself up in this boulder competition since he did not top the first boulder. A top here would be crucial for him. He already has the 5. He's got to work his way now to the 10. Being a little taller here, like some of the other competitors, makes it kind of weird. He's setting up for the jump. See if he can do it on his first try. Oh! This is a move that Nathaniel Coleman excels at, and he knows that he can do it, and he has plenty of time on the clock. He swings his foot out, comes into the pocket just a little too late, but he knows it with the smile on his face. He knows that he can do that move.
That was really the most controlled anyone's been at 15. Kind of like a dunker where the rim's at eye level, and for everyone else, they're reaching for it. He's at eye level there.
Exactly. Being a little taller on that move helps.
Second attempt for Nathaniel Coleman on boulder problem number 2. He's got a lot of experience in these leaping type of moves. We'll see if he can pull it off and be the first competitor to top what has been the most difficult problem yet.
He has a lot of power and a lot of body awareness and coordination skills, so let's see if he can put it all together on this jump right here. Oh, just a little late coming into the pocket again. Definitely knows it's possible. It's all about a timing thing at this point. Plenty of time left on the clock for him to make it through this move. You see he sets up, he gets his hand in there, and he's just coming in a little late to the pocket. It's like he's coming out a little too much, and then he reaches back in, but his body's already pulling him back down to the ground. He needs to get a little closer to the wall when he's jumping up into that left-hand hold to then come into the pocket.
This is a crucial attempt coming up for him. He might realistically only have one more shot at this at full strength. If he pulls it off, he's right back in the mix. If he doesn't, it's a tough hole to climb out of in bouldering. Third attempt for Nathaniel Coleman. Murray, Utah resident, lives just 15 minutes away from here in Salt Lake City, and a lot of this crowd here to cheer him on.
Trying to be cautious to get back into the 5 and the 10 zone so he can set up for this jump that he's been oh so close to on every single attempt. Yes! Gets it with 2 fingers in the pocket. Now he really needs to be careful here because we have yet to see anyone top this. Will Nathaniel, oh! He does have 48 seconds left. Is he gonna try it again is the question. The crowd is asking him to go for it just one more time. Awesome move to the pocket. Gets it in the right height and position.
Time for one more attempt for Nathaniel Coleman on boulder number 2. His last try, he reached that 15-point scoring zone. Question is, does he have time to reach the top?
He definitely needs a top here, and if he can do it, it would be so exciting. He knows what he did last time here will not work, so he has to be smarter about it this time. But will he figure out the subtle movements to get him to the 25? Oh, unfortunately, he comes up just a little too short.
Nathaniel Coleman makes it to the 15-point zone, unable to reach the top, though, of boulder 2. One boulder left to go. We'll see if our competitors have a little more luck on boulder 3. One boulder remaining for our 8 male finalists here in Salt Lake City. Sam Farber, Megan Martin here with you at the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. Josh Levin first up. So far, he's struggled, comparatively speaking, on the first 2 boulders.
Yeah, he definitely needs to do a little bit better in order to move himself up, especially after his speed standing.
Josh Levin underway in his first attempt here on boulder number 3. Great reach for that 5-point zone.
It's a really tricky start move with the shiny part on that hold, the dual text part on that start hold being so slippery. And here, I'm sure there's multiple ways to do this boulder, but there's gonna be a lot of, you know, turning around, using your heels, flipping your hands around, just not really knowing what to do while you are on an overhang. So it's gonna zap the men's energy pretty quickly. So it's important to make your tries count on this boulder. It's also boulder number 3, so everyone's gonna be a little more tired.
Only able to score 5 points on that boulder, even though he made contact with the 10-point boulder. He didn't actually get a hand on the zone, so that's not enough.
Exactly, he needs to make sure he can get the hand on there and show control for that 10-point zone. Taking a second look at the boulder, because after being on it now, he's realizing he's a little more confused than he was when he was looking at it from the ground. Sometimes you have to kind of figure it out after your first try.
Josh Levin making his second attempt on boulder 3. He's got half his time left. Josh Levin making his third attempt here on boulder 3. Half his allotted 4 minutes remaining.
Really impressive campus move there, where he went from one hold to the other hold with his hand and not using his feet. But clearly this boulder is proving to be extremely challenging. Having exerted so much power from the start, it kind of doesn't ever stop. After talking to Chris Danielson, we know that this boulder is kind of on you the entire time. There is no moment of relief. Just over a minute left for Josh Levin here.
24-year-old Josh Levin making his 4th attempt on boulder number 3, and with the amount of energy it's required, it could, well, maybe not his last one. He'll have time for one more.
I think he definitely does have time for one more, needing to brush these holds. Now, the little holds, the red ones that are screwed onto those black volumes, are not that good. So the more chalk you get on them, the greasier they're gonna get, the harder they're gonna be to hold.
He wants the crowd. 5th attempt on boulder 3 for Josh Levin, likely his last one. He's got under 30 seconds left.
Really smart to use the wall that time. He kicked to the wall to come into the black, because campusing without his feet was becoming too hard as he got more and more tired. Trying to get into this 10. Questionable whether the judge is going to give him that. I think they might, but we'll have to wait and see. Kind of have to, oof, really risky move there. Really good effort from Josh Levin on boulder number 3.
Crowd seems as confused by boulder 3 as Josh Levin was. Here comes Colin Duffy.
Climbers, you may begin climbing now.
Taking a moment to brush those holds. Though he's the youngest competitor, he is still an experienced competitor and knows that brushing is necessary.
15-year-old Colin Duffy ready to make his first attempt on boulder number 3. He solved boulder 1 on his first try. Boulder 2 might have been too tall for him.
Good effort there from Colin Duffy. Boulder 2, definitely he was at a disadvantage, but he was close. I think he could have done it if he had just like another minute on the clock for boulder 2.
Second attempt for Colin Duffy here on boulder 3.
A little difficult here for Colin Duffy, just because that shiny part of the foothold he keeps needing to stand on to get the height in order to get to the 5, whereas Josh Levin was able to put his foot in the hole where there's actual friction.
Third attempt for Josh Levin to reach that handhold on Colin Duffy, sorry, on problem 3.
He tried something different that last time.
Colin Duffy making his 4th try, and, well, it was a quick one.
He's trying to move his body positioning to the left a little, like put all the weight on the left so he can use the good part of the foothold, because the slippery part is just too slippy to jump off of.
Very frustrated look on Colin Duffy's face.
I also think those holds hurt a little when you fall off of them.
Colin Duffy just struggling to complete this move.
This is definitely a moment where his height is a serious disadvantage here. It's a hard move, but unfortunately it shouldn't be this hard. Yes, Colin Duffy just doing it anyway, using everything he can to try and get to that number 5 zone, which he was able to get. Now that he's gotten the 5, I think he'll feel a little better, and now he can think about what he needs to do next after he gets the 5 again.
Colin Duffy continuing to work here on boulder 3, leaps up for that first 5-point hold.
He's clearly figured out that that way to get number 5 works for him. So now he's gonna just try to figure out how he can get to that number 10 zone, which we haven't seen anybody get to, and would be really good for him too. This is very slippery, tensiony, so much strength needed to be moving around on those terrible holds. Trying to use his feet to get into the 10. That should be 10 for Colin Duffy.
He's still got it.
If he can get his foot out now, he can match this hold, bring both hands in. Maybe take a little bit of a breather for a second, work his way up on the number 10, trying to not slip. Oh, unfortunately a slip, but really good progression there for Colin Duffy.
It is just incredible watching this young man climb.
He's gonna have to move really quickly if he wants to get a little, if he wants to try to get to that 15 this time, but looks like he might be done. Really great round and really good try hard for Colin Duffy. 1 top in the round, doing pretty well on the other 2 boulders, sets him up nicely.
10 seconds.
The crazy amount of strength that it took for him to keep his feet on there on those very slippery holds. And he's got 3 fingers on basically nothing, just gripping with his life to try to come into that number 10 and increase his score.
Next up is Kai Leitner. Kai Leitner ready to make his first attempt here on boulder 3. He's the tallest competitor to attempt it so far. What kind of advantages does that give him, Megan?
On this boulder, it might give him a little bit. I wouldn't say that the way he just started this boulder was an advantage. It still looked difficult. It was definitely a different way to do it, but it didn't really look any easier. Now, he's in a good position right now, and he's very good with his feet. He can heel hook very well, and he's very flexible, which will play to his strengths. Also, swinging the foot out like that with his height is definitely a bit helpful as well. Trying to make his way into the 10.
You and I have very different definitions on what a good position is. Look at that flexibility.
I told you, he might be tall, but he's one of the more flexible male climbers that we will see here today. Very good effort from Kai, only the 2nd person to get to the 10, though he doesn't know that. And he has plenty of time to figure out how he can make his way further into this boulder. I'm sure he exerted a lot of energy with that try, so he's gonna need to take a little bit of time to rest. Good 20 seconds or 15 seconds, I think, would be great, so that he still has enough time to, you know, give it at least 1 more really good go, and maybe even 2 if he needs to.
Kai Leitner making his second attempt here on boulder number 3. He topped boulder 1. If he does it again here, he's got a really good chance to maybe win this discipline.
Definitely a good chance. And this time when he got on the boulder, he decided to try it the way that I believe the route setters intended, which was going with his right hand first. On his first attempt, he went with his left hand, which if he wasn't tall, he wouldn't be able to do, but I do think he made it harder, and this way is better. Really good on the 10, and now he's got the 15. This is the high point. He's looking to find ascent here. The last move's big, but if he can get his feet on, I think he can get to it. The hold is good. He's just gonna have to bring that foot up if he can. This is where his height kind of hurts him. He is a very good sport climber, so he's taking a moment to rest, using a knee bar a little bit and wrapping that hold. Oh, unfortunately tried to go dynamically and falls off that finish hold with one hand, but way to get to that 15 for the new high point on this boulder.
30 seconds left. Time for one more attempt for Kai Leitner. And I think he knows it. That's it.
Kai Leitner looking so comfortable as he put both hands on the 10-point hold and then moved easily to 15. Looked like he was about to be in a good position to try to get to the 25, but unfortunately had to jump and just fell short of latching that 25 hold.
Great performance from Kai Leitner. It's going to bring up Drew Ruana, who right now is at least in the top 2 here in bouldering.
Definitely in a good position right now.
Drew Ruana on his first attempt on boulder number 3. He reached the top on number 1 and was one of just a couple athletes to reach the 15-point zone on number 2. So he's done very well in this discipline.
Definitely doing really well in this competition today. Really good start on this boulder. I think it would be in his benefit to try to keep his feet on a little more, though you can campus those moves, which means you would not put your feet on. It's gonna save you energy if you use your feet.
Second attempt for Drew Ruana on problem 3.
In a better position this time. Looks like his feet are more secure on that number 10 volume, though he needs to get his hand there in order to get the 10 points. Another fumble there for Drew Ruana.
If he's able to top this, by my calculation, he could finish no worse than second in this discipline.
I believe that is correct. He at least needs to get to the 10 on this boulder, I think, to be in good possession.
Drew Ruana working on his 3rd attempt on problem 3, about halfway through his allotted time.
Struggling to figure out how to use his feet in order to have that number 5, or the one in between the 5 and the 10 under control so he can get to the 10. Just kind of slipping all over the place here.
Brush up these holds. Still got some very talented athletes to come. Sean Bailey, there's a lot of pressure on him to top this boulder, and for Zach Gallahead, if he's able to top it, he'll likely win this round, and having already finished second in speed, he'd be in a great position moving into sport.
Yeah, and kind of a bit of a, not a dark horse, because we know he can do well, but he wasn't in the initial favorite to win the whole thing.
Drew Ruana, the number 2 qualifier into today's finals, working on problem 3 here in bouldering, and he's got 1 minute left to make one more attempt. Right now, I think he's only been in the 5 zone.
He only has the 5 zone. He's been struggling to figure out how to get his feet to stay on so he can make his way through to the 10 zone.
Drew Ruana Might be his last attempt on problem 3.
Really trying to get those feet to stick this time so he can, unfortunately it's just not gonna work. Let's see if he can give it one more go. He may not have enough time to do the entire boulder, but if he can get to the 10, it would be worth it to try again.
15 seconds. Drew Ruana gonna make one last ditch effort to get to the 10-point scoring zone.
It's just not gonna happen.
We'll take a commercial break, come back with our final 4 attempts at Boulder 3 in Salt Lake City. Kyra Condi, front and center, the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational winner for the women. On her journey here in today's final, she won in bouldering and then went on to win in sport. That was her path to a victory. Will that be the path for our men's champ? Sean Bailey, who has had a frustrating day so far, is next up on Boulder 3. He did have the high point in Boulder 2, so can still win this thing. Our #1 seed out of qualifying, Sean Bailey, ready to make his first effort on Boulder problem 3.
Already off to a good start with control of the 5. Doing that powerful campus move, which is moving from one hold to the other with no feet. Able to get that foot to stick so he can try and work his way down into the number 10 zone. Really vital for him to do well on this boulder to kind of stay in the game here. Little twisted up here. It's not a very obvious sequence for these climbers. They kind of have to be on the wall in order to feel what they need to do. Ooh, very, very good and smart movement there from Sean Bailey. Getting the 10, now needs to figure out how to come into the 10. Gets the little screw on the other side. Gonna make his way to the 15. Getting a knee bar. Another really good sport climber, so finding rests on boulders definitely is something he can do. Now he's gonna have to match though by putting both hands on the 15 if he's gonna, nice piano match. Moving one finger at a time to make room for the other finger. See if he can finish this boulder. Can Sean Bailey do it? Oh! He had 2 hands on there, but no control. Hopefully he's okay there, grabbing his neck. What an effort from Sean Bailey. Here's Sean Bailey going to the 15. He went with his right hand, which required him to put both hands on that hold and match the hold. Really impressive match that he does here. He moves one finger at a time in order to make room for the other hand. Sets up for the jump here. It's a really big jump. Gets high up on the hold, but unfortunately he's not able to control it. Takes a pretty bad fall, and it looks like he's decided to end his tries, knowing that he did pretty well. He doesn't know how well people are doing on the boulder, but he can tell that nobody's actually topped it by the way the crowd reacted to where he got on the boulder. So to save his neck, since he still has a sport climb to do, he's choosing to walk off and save it.
Have to check the final scores. He does have the high point here on Boulder 3, but still 3 climbers left to go behind him. John Brosler, the new 6-second and under finisher in the speed discipline, trying his hand here at problem 3 in bouldering.
Now this boulder actually, to me, looks like the boulder that would suit John the best out of the 3 boulders in this round. He had a very good first go on this boulder, kind of slipped out of it, but I think he'll be able to figure out which body position's gonna work best for him on his next try. Kind of just looking at the boulder to see what it is he could do differently this next time he gets on the wall. climbers only have 4 minutes, and he's already over a minute into this boulder, so he needs to be smart and make every try count. And, you know, to conserve his energy, he needs to be efficient.
John Brosler making his second attempt on boulder 3. Bouldering has not been his strong suit in this competition.
Trying really hard there, able to get his feet over on the far side. A nice way to get into the 10. Oh, he will get control of the 10 there. He doesn't need to match, he just needs the one hand to have control. So really good effort there from John Brosler.
He was slipping there, but in your mind, he was bringing the second hand over, so
yes,
he gets credit for the first.
Correct. Since he was moving that second hand in, he clearly has control of the 10 to be able to move the other hand to the same hold.
We'll, of course, have our official scores for you after the end of this bouldering round. Here's a look at what we're talking about.
Yeah, see, he gets control with that one hand, and he's moving to bring the other hand in. And since it's not a finish hold, he only needs control with the one hand. So definite 10-point zone there for John Brosler.
One minute left on boulder 3 for John Brosler. He's had a ability to thrill this crowd, going under 6 seconds in speed. And he do so by being the first man to top boulder 3.
Really good. This is where he fell last time. Oh, unfortunately, might be it for John Brosler. He does still have a sport climb. Oh, I speak too soon. Looks like he's gonna try again.
He's thinking about it at least, 30 seconds.
He has enough time to get to the 15 at least. Every point counts here because we add up all the totals from all the boulders, so the extra 5 points would be helpful.
Only 15 seconds left to do it.
Whoa, wild move there from John Brosler. Oof, unfortunately, not gonna make it to the 15, but having that 10 is definitely helpful for John Brosler.
It's going to bring Zach Galla up, and Zach has a shot to basically win this discipline and make him a clear favorite heading into sport.
This is definitely a great position for Zach Galla, taking a moment to brush the holds. I could see him doing very well on this boulder. As long as he can figure out the right body positions in order to come into the 10, I think he has a good shot. It's gonna be difficult to see what he's gonna do for the last move when he gets there. We haven't really seen anybody figure out the right beta, but he could possibly do it.
A crucial climb here getting started for Zach Galla. Early fall. Zach solving problem 1 on his first try, about to take his second crack at problem 3. Second attempt for Zach Galla here on problem 3, and this is a really big one. If he tops, he'll win this discipline. If he doesn't, and if he even misses the 15, the door's open for Nathaniel Coleman to come in and steal this discipline.
Exactly, it's a very crucial moment for him. He's got the 10. Unfortunately, he fell off there. That section of the boulder seems to be the trickiest and kind of takes everybody a couple tries to figure out the right method in which to get both hands or match on that number 10 zone hold. But once you get the 10, it's very easy to get the 15. And then the last hard move you have is figuring out how to get to that 25 without swinging off.
18-year-old Georgia native. Has half his 4 minutes remaining.
Really good idea here to be, you know, reassessing that area where he failed on his last attempt.
Back up on the wall, Zach Galla on boulder problem number 3. If he's able to top here, he'll take this discipline.
Looks like he wants to get his foot down to that lower volume, but is having trouble kind of reaching it. He is one of the shorter climbers, but there is always another way to do it. Zach Galla getting into that 10 in a better position than he was last time. Now he's set up nicely to go to the 15. Now he needs to just figure out a way to get to the 25 with control. Oh, big swing there for Zach Galla, but he does have over a minute left, so he may be able to figure out a way to send this boulder.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Zach Galla was able to set himself up nicely to jump to that final hold. He just kind of had too much of a swing and it kind of propelled him off of the finish hold. He might need to figure out a more static way, but he has enough time to try.
Less than a minute remaining here for Zach Galla to try and solve problem 3 in bouldering. He's made it to the 15-point zone. And 30 seconds up, I think he's going to call it here.
A little bit too tired to continue on, but really good score there for Zach Galla, gonna boost him up in the rankings. But the door is still open for Nathaniel Coleman to do a little better.
10 seconds.
With that performance, Zach Galla is probably out of reach now for Nathaniel Coleman, but the distance between the two in terms of the rankings in his discipline are going to be really important.
Oh man, yeah, we could have another like 1 and 2 opposite. It would definitely keep it exciting.
Nathaniel Coleman, one of the best boulder climbers in the country. A quick first attempt, he'll take a second stab at it here. After a quick fall, Nathaniel Coleman up for try number 2 on boulder 3. And he's having some issues here.
Looks like he's having trouble reading how he should be doing this.
2 quick falls, and now attempt number 3 on boulder 3. Nathaniel Coleman off again.
For some reason, he's seeing this boulder as a jump when it's easier to just crank down on that left hand and reach with the right and kind of turn out and hold the swing.
The local favorite here from Utah, Nathaniel Coleman, on his 4th attempt, reaches the 5-point scoring zone in problem 3. He really needs a top to be in one of those podium positions for the final discipline, the sport climb.
And this is a boulder that will suit him really well. As you can see, he is already making his way through the boulder with ease. And, you know, he's a little taller than both Sean Bailey and Zach Galla, who have been at this point before, but a little shorter than Kai Leiner, who was also here, so he can get his foot up and hopefully in a better position to hold the 25, which he did not do this time, but he has enough time to try it again. You need 2 hands on that hold to show control and get the top, but he had 1 hand and he could easily bring that second one in, and he has plenty of time to do so. You see him go for this 25 hold. He was able to get his left foot up to boost him a little more, but he didn't even try to bring his left hand up. So if he does that on his next try, I think he'll be able to control that hold and get that 25 top.
Looking down from the top, it really shows you, even though there's that mass there's a lot of surface area to grab onto, nothing really sticks.
Yeah, there's not anything holding you in. It's kind of still a sloping hold with a little bit of an edge in the back. Not really an edge, but because it sticks out that way, it'll pull you in a little bit, but it definitely is something you're going to have to squeeze really hard in order to control the swing on that kind of a hold. Plenty of time, though, for Nathaniel Coleman to have another go at this boulder now that he's figured out the bottom.
It's taking a long time to rest. Does he kind of have it measured in his mind? I've got one shot at this. I better be ready for it.
Definitely, because he knows what to do at the beginning of the boulder, so he doesn't want to get on too early and not be recovered enough. So it's all about making sure you can rest long enough and then execute every move perfectly so you're set up to try that move you didn't do before.
Under a minute remaining here for Nathaniel Coleman, the local favorite here in Salt Lake City, trying to top Boulder 3. He'd be the only man to do it.
Definitely been in that position before where he is the only man to do something in a competition. Climbing smoothly through this. The clock is counting down, but he should have enough time to get to the top of this boulder, so there isn't really any need to rush. Trying a little bit of a different method. Oh! So close for Nathaniel Coleman.
Close, but not quite. Nathaniel Coleman gets the high point. We'll figure out the score, see who has come away in a podium position heading to sport. Great performance from our 8 male finalists in Boulder. Only one discipline left to go. It's sport. We're waiting for standings. We believe that Zach Galla won that discipline, and if that's true, he'd have a score of 2 heading into the final discipline. Low score wins. You multiply your ranking in each discipline along the way to give you your final score. Sam Farber, Megan Martin, former U.S. national climbing team member, and based off what you've seen today, who do you think has the upper hand heading into the final discipline?
Zach Galla is definitely going to be in a very good position, though sport maybe his, actually I don't even know if I'm comfortable saying that is his weakest discipline. I don't know if he really has a weakest discipline.
In terms of results, this weekend it's been his weakest discipline.
Yeah, let's go with that. Otherwise, I just don't know how to say that. But there are a couple of sport specialists, I would say. Someone like Sean Bailey will do extremely well at sport, whereas, you know, Zach Galla will also do well, but Sean has better potential to top the route, which he would really need to do in order to keep it up, because his bouldering round was so-so.
And Nathaniel Coleman in particular, he has done well in sport this weekend. He was the #2 finisher during qualifiers, but he's probably got a gap between himself and Zach Galla heading into that round.
He definitely, or I guess we don't know yet because we're still waiting for the standings, but there may be a gap. Although he has done well in sport this weekend, it is not generally his strongest discipline. Someone like Kai Leitner is more of a sports specialist, and we could see him excel here as well. And he did do really well on the boulders in the bouldering round, so.
He did.
It's kind of, I mean, we really need to see those standings, because I mean, I've got numbers over here, but my math is not always correct.
Drew Ruano was also a solid performer. Sean Bailey did well to keep himself close, and
he's close to Nathaniel, I believe, which is good. But some of the other men in the bouldering round did a lot better than both Nathaniel and Sean.
But Sean, being the #1 rated climber coming into today's final, having won sport during qualifiers, you know, if you say that carries over and give him a 1, he might be in a position to win with just that, not really any help. Might.
Yeah, there's a good chance. And he did only do 1 try on the 3rd boulder, which was the most powerful boulder of the round. And he decided just to do 1 try because I think he's having a little neck issue, which was smart, but it will also conserve some energy for the sport climb where he needs to really excel.
And if he does have a neck issue, that's not going away in the 20 minutes between when he wrapped up the boulders and when he moves on to sport. All right, the suspense is killing me. Let's get these scores in. This is the standings through 2 disciplines, and Zach Galla did indeed win bouldering, and he is your leader heading into sport.
Definitely.
Nathaniel Coleman, a 6th place finish in bouldering. That's going to hurt him.
But he still has a chance to keep it going in sport if he can end up a little bit higher up.
See Sean Bailey, 5th place in bouldering. So certainly not where we expected to see him heading into the final discipline. And he's going to need a lot of help.
Definitely a big surprise with Sean Bailey, but we are heading into the discipline where he is, you know, one of the best in the entire world. So there is that chance that he's able to, you know, make something up here.
It's going to be very interesting. Only sport left to go. And a reminder, this competition is to set up the winner to be in a really good position to make the Olympic team for 2020. Now the 8 male competitors are back out there inspecting the sport route. They are allowed to touch the start hold, correct?
Yes, they can touch the start hold with their hands. They just cannot touch any of the other holds with any part of their body. Right now they're having a look at this route that I hear was nicknamed the Black Pearl by the route setters. Not exactly sure why. Partially maybe because those shiny dual text holds could look like a black pearl.
See that final hold encompassed by that purple box. That's the target. Now in the women's competition, we didn't see anyone top the sport route. And part of this exercise this weekend was to do the same format that's going to be required in the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. How much do you think these athletes are figuring out is how much more physically is required to be in a position to top this route?
Yeah, I think just adjusting to this new format when you have all these other disciplines that you have to do. Nathaniel Coleman's right there using binoculars to look at those really high holds on this route. You're allowed to do that. You can have binoculars, but that is the only device that you can use while you're looking at the route.
Well, let's get an inside track on this route. We've got the chief route setter for the sport discipline, Brett Johnston, joining us here. Brett, thanks so much for the time. As you set this course up, what are you trying to test for these athletes?
Well, we're just trying to get as much separation out of the route as possible. Ultimately, we really want just one athlete to top the route, and from the top of the route, the next best athlete would be falling a little bit lower than that. That's our ideal world.
And looking at this route, I see a lot of different elements. I was talking to one of the setters on your crew earlier, and he was telling me that, you know, it kind of starts off a little punchy, then you have some more resistance, powerful moves, then there's like a very creative drop down move where you kind of flip upside down a bit, or facing the crowd a little bit, and then the head wall is very technical after all of those powerful moves in a row.
Yeah, hopefully the blend of something that's really crowd-pleasing with all the down climbing and sideways stuff going on, plus testing their ability to be just really good resistance climbers for sport climbing is going to happen.
Brett Johnston with us, the chief route setter for sports. This is the first time this format's been contested here at this level in the U.S. What are you learning about how you need to test these elite climbers to make sure that they're ready for 2020?
We're not trying to give anything away to them, that's for sure. When they do this on an Olympic scale or even in the IFSC or other formats, the routes are very hard. The athletes have been doing this for a lot longer, so we're not trying to throw them any softballs. We're also learning how the athletes respond to multiple days of competition and multiple disciplines within one day, so it's a good learning experience for the athletes and for the route setters.
In the women's competition, for the most part, most of the athletes were in the same kind of height range. There was a couple outliers. In the men's competition, there are some big outliers.
Yes.
In your opinion, who's better suited? The tall guys, the short guys, the ones in the middle?
When we're doing our jobs right, we're trying to make things as fair as possible for everybody. So we don't try to focus on making one better for the other. We're just trying to make sure that each athlete has a shot at doing it.
But generally, I feel like if you're in the middle, you're probably going to end up being okay with being comfortable most of the time.
Yeah, if you're in that bell curve, you are a little bit more comfortable than maybe the short end or the tall end.
Yeah.
You could say that.
It was interesting to see in the boulders today, I saw Kai in a lot of really bunched up positions on boulders, but then the other part of the boulder, his height was helpful. And same with Colin. There were parts where he was, you know, had to be reaching a bit more, and then where the high feet were very helpful for him because that's a comfort for him.
Yeah, there's certainly distinct advantages to both body types.
Talking to Brett Johnston, chief route setter for the sport discipline. We had a lot of fun watching on the women's side the Rose move. When you're designing a course, what are moves you like to see, and where over the course of the route do you like to put them?
Well, in my opinion, moves up high on the route. The exciting moves at being up high is, you know, good for this show.
We appreciate that.
Well, I know the production is definitely important. And we're just trying to be creative, you know. We're not trying to do the same thing over and over. We want the result that we want to get in terms of the separation, but we also want to progress climbing and show these climbers that there's new stuff out there and hopefully give them more and more to kind of build off of.
Brett, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your effort on designing this course, and we're looking forward to watching, I'm sure, as much as you are.
All right, well, thank you very guys.
Thank
Sport
you.
Final is coming up next when we return to Salt Lake City. Welcome back to Momentum Indoor Climbing in Salt Lake City, home of the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. Men's final climb ahead of them. It's the sport discipline. Sam Farber, Megan Martin here with you. And Megan is a former member of USA's national climbing team. Looking at this field, looking at one climb left after a long day and a long weekend, what would you be feeling in this moment?
Well, I would definitely be feeling the fatigue that I bet a lot of these competitors are feeling. That was definitely a very hard round of boulder problems for the men. So going into a route that is going to be very difficult because they need the separation, you know, you just hope that they can recover enough to do well on the route.
Our leader heading into this final climb, and the guy who gets to go last is Zach Galla, who has had a phenomenal final. Zach came into the speed round as the #2 seed, ended up finishing second, ended up winning the bouldering discipline. So his score is 2. You multiply the rankings together, and we'll do it again after sport, but Zach's in a great position to the point that half the field is unable to catch him for first place.
Yeah, it's an amazing showing from Zach Galla. Really good position, and you know, he has the potential to do very well on this sport climbing route. He's had a lot of progression in the last few years, and it's been really exciting to watch him grow as an athlete, as a competitor, and you know, really just shine this entire weekend.
Zach Galla, 18 years old from Sewanee, Georgia. He'll be the last one to attempt our sport wall. See the route setters together as they await our first competitor here in sport. It's Josh Levin. Josh, a disappointing final. He had a fall in his first attempt on the speed climb. That put him in last place out of that discipline. Didn't fare well in bouldering either. So he's going to go out there and try and really put on a show. Everyone still has a mathematical shot at the podium. So, you know, there's certainly a lot to climb for. And of course, as you've mentioned a couple of times, you know, there are points available for people who don't finish on the podium that could go towards you making Team USA.
Exactly, and you know, it is unfortunate for Josh Levin because he had a stellar performance in the qualification round, but unfortunately these kind of things happen, and it is important to just keep your head on, stay in the game, because it's all about accruing points over this entire season. It's obviously great if you can come out with a win at this competition, but if you can't, you want the highest placement possible. You definitely don't want to be giving up.
Josh Levin, 24 years old from Sunnyvale, our first competitor to take his steps onto this sport climb.
It's a really cool route. It requires you to kind of start committing early on this climb. Grabbing some smaller holds, about to make a bigger move to a pretty good pinch hold. Nice place to clip from. Now he has to grab these two kind of slopey holds that have the dual texture on them, with the slippery part being on one side and the good part being on the other side. Looking to be in a good rhythm right now. In the past, Josh has been a very good sport climber. So hopefully he's recovered enough from the round to really climb to his potential on this route.
In the larger field, the 23-man qualifying field, he was one of just 2 finalists to be top 8 in all 3 disciplines. So, you know, looking towards other events where there's going to be that large field, he's shown an ability to rise to the top of the class.
Exactly. And, you know, it's interesting looking at this route, you've got a lot of these dual text holds, which means not only is it difficult to grab them, but then when you're going to stand on them with your feet later on, it makes it a little more difficult. As you see, he's using his heel right there. And there's only a portion of that hold that's actually textured. The other part is slippery. So if he's not exact in his placement, he could possibly have a little mistake happen. Nice little jump move he had done previously to those volumes too.
In sport, every hold is worth a point. You get a fraction of a point for getting part of a hold, reaching for it as you fall off the wall. But in short, the higher you climb up what is essentially a 5-story building, the better off you are.
Really nice jump move there from Josh Levin. It's a good hold he's on. He can take a little bit of a second to rest. You know, on these kind of sport routes, you don't always have time to rest. They don't want, the setters are trying to look for separation, so they don't want athletes to be resting on the wall for too long. And you only have a 6-minute clock, so you have to be careful. You don't want to run out of time either.
Josh Levin, first athlete up on the sport discipline for the men. 24 years old, he was our oldest finalist. Struggled in Boulder, had a fall in speed, so he's dug himself a big hole to try and make the podium, but still possible as he's got roughly 3 minutes left to complete this climb.
And he's looking really good on this route. Last year at Sport Nationals, he made it to the final. This is where it gets really interesting. They have a really cool drop-down move here. Very difficult, really nice crowd pleaser move. Oh, good effort from Josh Levin. When he was falling, he was able to reach and make movement towards the next hold. Here's this nice jump move earlier on in the route. Nailed it, took a few moments to rest here. Here's his drop down, and he continues his momentum forward, which will give him what we call positive movement, which is 0.3 awarded to the last control hold you had. So when you're falling, the goal is to always fall up or to the right or out or whichever direction you're going, but you never want to fall down because then you don't get any positive movement.
Similarities to other sports, you know, football, you pretend like they hit you a little harder for pass interference, or basketball, and throw your head back as you're making contact with someone.
Yeah,
not to say he's not making positive movement,
totally.
but you got to sell it.
Yes, you have to sell it. That's what when I used to coach, we used to tell the kids, remember, you're falling up. Gotta make the movement.
So we'll wait to get Josh Levin's score as we watch Colin Duffy come up. Colin's really been a lot of fun to watch climb this weekend. He really set himself apart in Boulder qualifications yesterday, and even though he's not in a position to win this competition, 15, he's definitely proven that he is the future of USA climbing.
Colin Duffy has been amazing to watch this weekend, and you're right, he is proving he is the future of the sport, and for him it's just so much amazing experience this weekend at such a high level to compete in all these disciplines and, you know, really hang with the big dogs.
"15-year-old Colin Duffy is up on the sport climb, the youngest, the shortest, the lightest climber. Last time this weekend I get to say it, so.
Might as well.
He has been just thrilling to watch as he does things that people 8 to 10 years older than him and 6 to 12 inches taller than him have been unable to do.
And crazy moves like that, he does them with ease. And Colin is a 2-time youth world champion in sport climbing. The last 2 years, he was able to win the sport climbing competition. So definitely an experienced sport climber. You know, every now and then, the height can come into play more so in boulders than sport, and I think that's why he's been able to be more consistent with sport. So I could see him, you know, easily being the person to get the high point on this climb and possibly top it.
It was interesting talking to him yesterday after he had such a great performance in bouldering, and talking about, you know, you seem to have figured this game out at 5 feet tall. What happens as you grow? It's just kind of like, I'll figure it out. I got it.
He's definitely gotten used to adapting over the years, so I think that's his MO. Another big jump for Colin, nails it. Super confident in his climbing. Extremely on point today. Good chance to take a rest. But doesn't need much of a rest. He definitely does have a lot of endurance, which is another strength when it comes to his sport climbing.
15-year-old Colin Duffy working on his sport climb, trying to thrill this crowd. The 15-year-old from Broomfield, Colorado.
Really nice place to clip that clip from, because now he can drop down into this difficult drop down section, and he already has the clip clipped, looking super casual, making the crowd go wild as he gets a nice little knee bar there to help him bump up onto the next hold. Only using 3 fingers, not something you'll see a lot of the adult climbers do. To climb only with 3 fingers is extremely difficult. Colin Duffy absolutely cruising this route. This is where the more technical section of the route begins. Looks like a pro up there. A little bit of rope drag here. Might be stuck a little bit next to his foot there. Just needs to clip this so he can relax for a second. There we go. Only about 9 or 10 moves away from the finish. Oh, and Colin Duffy is off, but it looks that like when he fell, he should get usable surface of that next hold.
Unbelievable effort from Colin Duffy, the new high point here in sport.
Really good rhythm and movement from Colin Duffy. This nice jump that was definitely bigger for him than we saw for other competitors, but didn't give him any trouble. Worked his way through the technical section. Couldn't quite get this next hold, but he definitely, or I guess not definitely, but to me it looks like he should get usable surface, which would be that extra 0.5 to his score.
Gets a big hug from his fellow finisher so far today, Josh Levin, and all 8 female competitors fit on the couch. You know, Colin's not going to take up a ton of room.
That's true, but Josh already moved to the chair.
What an effort from Colin Duffy. How soon do you think he'll really start to be hitting his peak? Does he have a chance in 2020 in Tokyo to be a part of that team?
I think he definitely has a chance. I mean, this competition proves it.
2024 in Paris, watch out.
Yeah, right? Be a 2-time Olympian.
Next up, we'll have John Brosler, who had maybe the moment of this final still, setting a new national record in speed. First American to go under 6 seconds on the speed course.
Yeah, a really exciting day for John Brosler. After kind of a disappointing beginning to speed, to, you know, get another national record. I'm sure he's happy with that.
John Brosler, the speedster, taking his turn on this sport climb. Finished the speed climb at 5.99 seconds. Frustrating time of it in Boulder. He finished last in our final field of 8. But still, in terms of individual moments you'll always remember from this event, I think John's got it.
Yeah, definitely getting that speed record was amazing. And I mean, you could see it on his face when he came down. He was so excited to have that record. Now, sport climbing being the weaker of his disciplines, I don't expect him to do amazing here, but you know, hopefully he's able to do a little bit better to make up for some of those other results today.
Minute into his climb here.
So far, he's looking pretty smooth. Kind of having to take a couple tries at the clips though here. You'll see some athletes clip so quick that you almost don't even notice that they did it.
This is roughly the equivalent of climbing a 5-story structure.
It's definitely high, but especially in a competition, that's really not what you're thinking about. Oof, good save there by John Brosler. His heel kind of popped off one of those holds that is partially slippery, one of those dual text holds. Like I said, it could be an issue when you're putting your feet on them. You're not always as in control on those holds as you would like to. Big jump for John Brosler. Had it for a second, but unfortunately he slipped off. Very good effort. Don't think it's going to be enough for a podium, but.
So John Brosler comes off the wall. We still have 5 climbers left to go in sport when we return to Salt Lake City. The nation's best climbers are here at the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational, and that young man, Sean Bailey, might just be the best overall. However, today has been a frustrating one for him. We've seen arguably the #1 climber coming into the competition struggle on boulders today and might be dealing with an injury.
Yeah, Sean was off to a really good start with an impressive speed result, one that, you know, I don't even think he thought was possible, but unfortunately didn't really have a good day on the boulders, and it really brought us ranking down.
Sean Bailey, the #1 ranked climber coming into today's final, getting started here on sport. Unfortunately for him, based off his results in speed and boulder, and really more appropriate to say based off what Zach Gallo was able to do in those 2 disciplines, Sean Bailey is not going to have a chance to win here today, and he's going to have to find another route to make the national team for the World Cup season.
It is really unfortunate because, you know, he was set up so nicely to make it happen, but, you know, this is how competitions go sometimes. And, I mean, right now, hopefully the whole neck thing isn't too serious, and, you know, he'll be ready for Open Bouldering Nationals in Bend in a couple weeks.
Sean Bailey, we've been talking about him all weekend long, the Seattle native. You say he seems to be in the prime of his climbing career.
I would definitely say he's in the prime of his climbing career. He's been really successful over the last few years, and this is the discipline that he really excels at. Oof, minor little foot slip there, but not too big of a deal for Sean Bailey. He was able to top one of the routes in qualifiers and then had one hand on the finish hold in qualifiers, doing so much better than everyone else. Now, after all the other disciplines today, I don't know what his energy level is left, but I expect him to climb really well on this route. Easy move for Sean Bailey.
At least he makes it look easy.
Yeah.
Jump.
I mean, for him, it is just easy.
The wall is 50 feet tall, and just don't try this at home.
Taking a moment to rest here. About halfway up the route now for Sean Bailey. Connecting with the crowd a little bit. Always trying to keep it fun. His nickname is Steezy Bailey.
22-year-old Sean Bailey from Seattle, Washington, considered the #1 climber in the country coming into this competition. He was #1 heading into the final Unfortunately, his performance so far today has not given him a chance to win, but he can certainly podium based off how he does in this sport discipline.
And a podium at this combined invitational is still really good in terms of continuing to accrue points over this season, you know, to qualify to compete on the World Cup circuit this year. So it's not over for Sean Bailey, and he should definitely give it all he has in order to, you know, make that happen, because he is one of the best, and we would love to see him out there competing internationally, representing the USA.
There's one spot up for grabs today in this 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational, but it's not the only one on Team USA for the World Cup season that's going to be granted.
No, it's definitely not the only spot. There will be 4 overall spots, so for the overall, and then we go down to specialists from certain disciplines. But, you know, Sean's looking for an overall spot because he has his sights on the Olympics. Getting control of this hold, which is the new high point on this route. This is where it gets extremely technical after you've already been made very tired from all of the other parts of the climbing on this route.
You see that pink
Delicate
purple box.
moves.
Sean continuing his route, 2 minutes left. That pink purple box at the top of the route, that's the final hold. And he's closing in.
Nice coordination move from Sean Bailey there. After all of the climbing on this route, that is a really hard move to make. He does still need to clip that draw.
Oh!
Good effort from Sean Bailey. If he wanted to top that route, he would have needed to clip that draw below him, because your foot cannot go past the last draw. But he went for the points by trying to get positive movement to that next hold and possibly usable surface. I'd need to see the replay for that one. Sean Bailey deciding to not go for the clip and matching that pinch hold that was very hard and trying to move to this pocket. Oh, that looks like usable surface to me. So he'll get that extra 0.5, and that's just one hold from the finish hold. New high point, and I'd be surprised if someone can top that. Really good performance in the sport climbing competition today from Sean Bailey.
Sean Bailey with a 46.59, easily the top score so far in the competition. And quite honestly, as we look towards the competitors that are going to have a chance to win, that mark's certainly going to come into play, because if someone's able to top, it could put some distance between yourself and the leader coming in, Zach Galla, assuming it's not Zach that tops it himself.
Exactly. So there's a lot of variables going on, and we really will not know until the last climber climbs.
Coming up next is Drew Ruana. Drew, coming into this sport discipline, was in 4th place, but quite frankly, not only would he need to top to win, but he would need Zach Galla to finish dead last. Drew Ruana begins his sport climb. He does have a mathematical opportunity to win the overall event, but he would have to reach the top or be the first place finisher at least, and would need Zach Galla, our leader coming into the 3rd and final discipline, to finish dead last, Megan.
So that's a lot of possibility there. Drew Ruana definitely has the talent to top this route. He's a very good sport climber. Now, having to rely on Zach Galla falling low on the route, I don't feel like that bodes well for Drew. But, you know, if he can do well, maybe top or get the high point on this route, he could at least move up to try and get on the podium. I think it's going to be hard for him to win this whole event, but the podium would be great, especially since, you know, I tried to project that. So.
What was your projection again?
I said Sean Bailey, Drew Ruana, and Zach Galla, so I'm almost there.
Pretty close. You left out Nathaniel Coleman, who is currently in 2nd place, and Kyle Leitner's currently in 3rd. So they're going to have, you're going to have to deal with them later is what I'm trying to say. They're coming after.
I think they all could possibly win. I play no favorites. I'm impressed by them all.
Drew Ruana in the midst of his final climb of the weekend, his sport climb.
Really nice move. Just a little hop for him there. Didn't need to jump too much. Looking really smooth on this climb. Taking a moment to shake out. Now Drew's done, you know, very well in sport climbing competitions over the years, but also he's done really well outside by climbing a lot of very difficult sport climbs. So this is where he's very comfortable.
Drew coming into this final did really well in boulder, really well in sport, struggled in speed. In terms of his 2020 Tokyo hopes, how big of a barrier is that speed struggle for him?
I don't think the speed struggle is that big for him, because I know he's been working on it, and he's improved a lot over the last, like, I would say the last 5 months. Struggling right here though with this clip, but whew, that was a close one. He got it. I think because Tokyo is still far enough away, I think, you know, he could improve enough for speed not to really be an issue for him anymore.
He's had a couple of close slips here, but hanging on.
This is a nice position for him to, oh. Very surprising fall there for Drew Ruana. I thought that knee bar would feel better, and I thought he'd be able to get a little rest, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
That's it for Drew Ruana's day. Only 3 climbers left to go. Drew Ruana, 19 years old, from Redmond, Washington. Here's a look at some of his best moments on the climb.
It looks like he kind of, instead of trying to get more secure in that knee bar, he kind of tried to move his hand up, and it threw him off balance a bit. Unfortunately, he happened to slip there. It's not the lowest point on the wall. I think that currently puts him in the 3rd place position, but definitely not ideal for him. Looks like he's got a little scrape there from that knee bar on that hold.
Really kind enough to point it out for him.
Of course. Well, I mean, they've known each other forever, so not really surprised by that one. But definitely, you know, leaving the door open for the standings to change a bit.
All right, next up is Kai Leitner.
Kai's another very good sport climber. He's won open sport nationals before, done well internationally. Kind of had a mess up in qualifications. He climbed well on one of the routes, but the other route he definitely slipped, so he's looking to make up for that here.
Kai Leitner beginning his final climb, our tallest, heaviest climber in this final. 19 years old, from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Had a 6th place finish in speed, which did not get him off to a great start, but finished 2nd in bouldering, so he does have a chance to take the overall title here in Salt Lake City.
Definitely in a good place for that overall title, which, you know, he is a very good overall athlete. He is one of those athletes that could really be a contender to possibly being on that Olympic team. Showing his flexibility here. Nice when you can clip 2 draws in a row from one hold.
When you've got the biggest wingspan in the field.
Yeah.
6'8" wingspan for Kai Leitner.
Really looking like he's in a nice rhythm here.
He's also going to need some help if he has a chance to win this. He'd not only have to win this discipline, but need our current leader, Zach Galla, to finish 6th or worse. So the odds coming a little bit better, but they're still pretty long.
But definitely set up nicely for a podium finish, which I think would be really good for him, especially leading into the rest of the season. I know he's looking to compete internationally in some of those World Cup competitions. He's been doing it for the last couple of years. Decided to go with a more static move there, where people were jumping before. He got his feet kind of high. For how tall he is really good at getting high feet when he needs to, and that goes back to his flexibility. As long as his knee isn't in his chest, he can usually figure it out.
It's odd almost. I mean, normally you think bigger, taller, longer athletes, you think of big, strong moves, but in climbing, it just gives him a longer reach to make those, you know, adjustments, make those static movements.
Exactly. And I think over the years he's had to learn how to adapt, because even though he's bigger, sometimes the big moves still are kind of small for him. So he has to learn how to make sure he can fit into that box. Looking a little tired here. Hopefully he can get it back.
Kai Leitner hanging on here in his sport climb in a tough position. Down he comes off the wall. Great effort from Kai Leitner, the 19-year-old from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Only 2 climbers left to go in the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. Six climbers on or around the couch here at Momentum Indoor Climbing in Salt Lake City. 2 left to go in our men's final. In the final discipline, the sport climb. Coming up next, it's the hometown favorite from nearby Murray, Utah. Nathaniel Coleman will be next on the wall. Murray's just 15 minutes away from where we sit here in Salt Lake City, so expect a big cheer as he comes up to make his final climb.
And there it is. This route has yet to be topped. Sean Bailey has gotten the closest by slapping the second to last hold.
Because he went so high, if Nathaniel tops it, there is a good likelihood that the distance needed could be created between him and Zach Galla. He came in trailing by 4 points. He had 6, Zach had 2. You're multiplying scores together, so first place almost needed here.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a close one. There's just so much that could happen between, like, really in these next 12 minutes at max.
His 6 minutes will start when he goes over to that start position.
He's just looking at the route again to make sure he knows exactly what he needs to do so he doesn't make any mistakes.
The local favorite, Nathaniel Coleman, begins his sport climb, definitely in contention for the overall win at the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational.
Off to a good start here. The beginning of this route is pretty committing, so you have to be kind of on it from the start with a few rests here and there, but not really amazing rests. So you have to really make sure you're focusing on your breathing. Don't hang around for too long or be indecisive for movements. You can see the hold he's grabbing has some friction on one side, but then the other side is shiny and slippery. It's a dual text hold. It's another one. They used a lot of them on this route, which makes it pretty difficult not to just grab them, but then to stand on them as well.
Nathaniel won the speed climb, somewhat surprisingly. Got a little bit of help from some falling fellow climbers. And in Boulder, he really performed well, but because he didn't top any of the 3 boulders, he ended up in 6th.
Unfortunately, Nathaniel struggled a bit too much on the first boulder. If he would have at least gotten the 15, it would have put him in a better position, but he definitely can make up for it here as long as he just keeps it together and has enough energy after such a grueling day.
You're watching Nathaniel Coleman on his final climb of the weekend. The 22-year-old from nearby Murray, Utah, just 15 minutes away from where we sit in Momentum Indoor Climbing in Salt Lake City, home of the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational.
So currently, Colin Duffy has the 2nd highest point, which is only about 6 holds from where Nathaniel is now. So if he can get up in there, he's in a very good position. Just taking a little moment to rest, shake, chalk a bit. He looks pretty good. Saw a little shake in his leg there, but otherwise he's looking pretty good. Just trying to get a little bit of that energy back. He's got a lot of time on the clock. I don't really expect any of the men to run the clock out, but you always gotta be conscious of that. This move can be a little finicky. Places that knee bar. Trying to figure out how to move the feet in. Yep, perfect. Able to get the other knee bar. Trying to, moves off of the hold by doing a bump. Oof. Oh, risky move there for Nathaniel Coleman. And that will not be able to beat Colin Duffy's score on this route. He's gonna be just underneath him, I believe. So, really good performance by Nathaniel Coleman. Puts him currently in that number 3 spot.
I'll wait to get the official scores, but suffice it to say, Zach Galla is in complete control of his own destiny. Here we see Nathaniel Coleman's final moments on the wall.
He reaches up kind of out of sequence there, I think, a little bit. Maybe just a little too stretched out, and the swing kind of gets him and he's not able to hold on to that little crimp. Very good climbing.
Been given a score of 33.58. That's got him, as you called it, 3rd place so far. So we'll have 1 climber left to go, and it's our leader who's just been phenomenal in this final, Zach Galla. And he's got himself in a really good spot to win this event and make it onto Team USA for the World Cup competitions.
Zach Galla getting ready to turn around and look at the wall. Probably gonna run through the sequence really quick to prepare. Not very long.
Zach Galla is on the wall here in the sport climb. I don't know if he knows it. I don't think this crowd knows it, but mathematically, this is a victory lap. Zach Galla is going to be your 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational winner and be on Team USA for the World Cup season.
I'm guessing he does not know that, but I'm sure when he finishes climbing, he'll be very excited to hear that.
Basically, Nathaniel Coleman, who is his closest competitor, can't finish any better than 3rd here. Multiplying that with his earlier scores, that would give him an 18. Because Zach has a 1st and a 2nd place finish already today, even if he fell right here and had the worst score, his worst possible overall score would be 16. Still enough to win.
Amazing weekend for Zach Galla. Excited to watch him climb this route. He's a very good sport climber, and I feel more relaxed now knowing that we already know that he won. Looking very in control on these moves. Really good route reading here. One of the punchier moves right now. Nicely done. Very fast clip. Here's the first jump. Yay! I don't know, it's just really fun to watch that move.
It's a victory lap for Zach Galla here in the sport discipline. The climbers chasing him have not done enough to keep things close, and now no matter what happens from here on out, 18-year-old Zach Galla is going to be your champ in Salt Lake City and be in the best possible position of any American male climber to be on the Olympic team. And there he goes, but still.
Very shocking foot slip there, but it's not going to matter for Zach Galla because he is already the champion.
The 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational champion, Zach Galla. Zach looking up at the wall. There's Nathaniel Coleman, who likely is going to finish second. We'll wait for the official results, but based off what we've seen, Nathaniel Coleman, by our calculations, should be in second, and Sean Bailey, with a win in sport, will finish in third place and on the podium.
So I almost got the podium right. Just one person off. Zach really excited to go see his opponents.
We'll have official, or as official as we can get, results when we return to Salt Lake City in just a moment. The 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational is brought to you by the North Face, inspiring and enabling exploration since 1966. What a weekend of competition it has been here at Momentum Indoor Climbing in Salt Lake City. Here are your final standings. Zach Galla is your champion, and he'll be moving on to Team USA for the World Cup season and be one step closer to being potentially an Olympian in Tokyo in 2020. Nathaniel Coleman and Sean Bailey round out your podium. Colin Duffy, just 15 years old, finishes in fourth place. But right now, down on the competition floor with our Megan Martin, it's your champion, Zach Galla.
Thanks, Sam. Zach, you performed so well over this entire weekend, and you started off really nicely in the final with the speed. How did that make you feel going into bouldering and sport?
It definitely made me more comfortable because I placed a lot higher than I thought I would in the speed. And then I got a little too confident, like knowing my PR was going to be, is more than Nathaniel's. So I felt the pressure because I hadn't slipped in any of my speed rounds through the competition. So I was like, oh, I got to just connect this one run, and I wasn't able to do it. So that kind of put the pressure on for the rest of the competition because it left the door open for anyone else to come after me.
Exactly, and then when it came for the boulders, you were on from the start with a top in the first one and then the high points for the second and third boulder. And then so going into sport, did you feel like you were in such a good place, or were you a little tired going into the route?
I felt good since I was able to get the rest from being in first position to go out last on the route. But route climbing's just not like my specialty at all. So I definitely felt I don't know, I was already a little pumped before I got on the route, and I just kind of had to keep it all together. I knew I just had to beat a few people in order to do well enough.
Well, we're very impressed by you, and thank you so much for coming to talk to me, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Megan. What a weekend it has been for Zach Galla and all of our competitors all weekend long. For Megan Martin, our entire outstanding ESPN crew, I'm Sam Farber saying it's been a pleasure and a privilege having you with us here in Salt Lake City for the 2019 USA Climbing Combined Invitational. Zach Galla is your men's champion this weekend here in Salt Lake City.